The Duke announces that he is getting a divorce, and then gives the document so that his wife can read it. The main character reads that the marriage between Raymond von and Erin de Brescia is officially considered invalid by mutual agreement of the parties. The most noble lady in the empire is Erin von Levensburg. She came from a once noble family and became a duchess, having tortured an unfortunate girl in love with the Duke. She is a decent girl who shamelessly committed an act of infidelity under the guise of a good wife. This story is about the famous villainess and her return to life under the name Erin de Brescia. In her youth, the main character dreamed of life as if in a fairy tale, with a happy ending in which the unhappy lady marries the prince and they live happily ever after. When the girl reached adulthood, a messenger came from the Imperial palace and reported that His Majesty wanted the young lady Brescia to become the bride of the Duke of Levensburg. Hearing this, the young lady thought that her dream had come true. Duke of Levensburg, son of the late heir and eldest grandson of the Emperor, a capable and educated excellent swordsman with a pleasant appearance. He is a good man in everything and heir to the throne. Erin's father asks the messenger why His Majesty chose his daughter. The man replies that at the moment there is no lady from a noble family of suitable age in the empire. All ladies of young Lady Brescia's age come from a lower family than the Marquess. After the decline of the Marquisate, her parents, having shouldered the debt burden, were unable to attend social events. The messenger reports that for his consent, His Highness promised financial support to the Marquis. Because of the proposal, bad rumors began to circulate in high circles. Hearing this, the main character agrees to become the prince's wife, believing the words of the messenger. She was convinced that a happy marriage awaited her. The girl reflects that if their marriage works out, then her family will be in the black, and her parents will finally be able to live normally. Raymond says that he is honored to marry such a beautiful young lady. When the main character saw him for the first time, she thought that he seemed to her to be a very sweet and kind person, but not even a day passed before her dream dissipated. And on the long-awaited first night, Raymond reveals that he is not going to spend the night with her as her husband. And then she claims that she herself must understand that this engagement is just a formality. The Duke left the girl alone with her thoughts and never returned. Later, the girl learned that the Duke had a mistress from a lower noble family since adolescence. It was no secret to anyone in high society that he promised to make his beloved empress. When these rumors reached the emperor, he immediately organized an engagement. However, the girl found out the truth too late. And for the next 9 years, she did not feel jealous and did not touch her husband's mistress. And she was also not wasteful or arrogant. As Duchess Erin, she tried to avoid things that could discredit her honor. However, wanting a divorce, the Duke accused her of infidelity. Did nothing wrong in the eyes of the public? The main character suddenly became a real villain. And she understood that even if she had been the first to express a desire for a divorce, she would not have been able to say anything since the engagement was the will of His Majesty. Raymond turns to his wife and says that she can cry. She can beg the emperor, but nothing will help her, and he does not want rumors to spread and claims that he does not care about her suffering. The lady says she understands, and then asks if she needs to sign. The Duke heard this and was surprised. Erin says that if he wants to marry his mistress, he will have to renovate the palace. And then she says that she sold everything that could be sold, and that's why her room is now empty. The Duke was surprised when he heard this. The main character explains that his next wife will either throw away or replace the furniture when she arrives at the palace, and that's why she sold everything this morning. The girl asks why he is so surprised, and then she claims that he himself told her to dispose of things as she sees fit, and that's why she did it. The Duke explains that since a deal was concluded between them, she of course cannot count on a dowry, and then asks what she's going to do with this little thing. Erin reports that he didn't care what she did for 9 years, and now that they were getting a divorce, he suddenly wondered what she was going to do. At this time, the main character thought that what he calls a trifle for her family is a fortune, and at that time, I thought that she dreams of opening a cafe, and this is her dream which she buried long ago. The girl understands that when she thinks about this, she begins to feel the pleasant, sweet aroma of round, rosy profiteroles. The main character remembers that her mother prepared these sweets, and when she was still a child, she really looked forward to her mother preparing them. And after trying a piece, she told Mom that they were so tender and seemed to melt in your mouth. Mom tells the girl that she will tell her one secret. And then he says that members of their family always have a stronger sense of taste than members of the Imperial family, and she is like her daughter, the blood is of her blood, and she too can bake the same magnificent cakes. A little girl tells her mother that when she grows up, she will open a cafe and fill the counters with delicious cakes. At this time, the main character reflects on the fact that she will never return to this palace, and this house never became hers in all these years. And then she looked at the chandelier and thought that it would fetch a good price. The Duchess saw her maid crying and then asked why Melly asks for forgiveness from her ladyship. Upon hearing this, woman claims that she is no longer her ladyship and then suggests that they address her as Erin. The lady thanks the maid for her faithful service and then says that she will miss the way she brought her tea and coffee. And he says that Melly is very caring. The maid apologizes for her insolence and then asks if she could take her with her and rehire her as a maid in her house. Hearing this, the main character thought that she did not know what to do. A couple of years ago, coffee supplies throughout the country began from southern ports, and rather coffee became the most popular drink among high society. And usually, tea was prepared by maids and coffee by servants. Melly was in charge of serving drinks for the main character, and she was also her only friend in this estate. Erin reflects that she would really like to take her in. After all, she understands that she will definitely come in handy. But in her financial situation, she only has money to open a coffee shop. Suddenly, the eldest maid comes into the Marquise's room. Mrs. Brannon's maid asks if the lady is ready yet, and then she claims that they are waiting for her because they need to clean the room. The Duchess thought that the maid didn't even knock, and Miss Brannon had always been hostile to her. The head maid reports that the Duchess did the unthinkable during the banquet. And since she grew up in a poor family, her low origins cannot be hidden no matter what title she has. Miss Vermont is interested in what could have prompted her fair one to marry this particular one and entrust her with the Duchess's wing, because she always has to run after her and correct her. The main character knows that the senior maid has always been on the Count's side, and she brought him together with his new mistress so that the Bren family through the Duke would gain more influence in society. At this time, Erin thought that she had suffered enough over the years all for the sake of her parents, but now she had to put an end to it. The girl recalls that her father was very offended by the neglect that she experienced in this estate, and he volunteered to participate in the war in order to bring her glory and respect in the Empire. Erin's father brought victory to the Empire, but he himself died in the war, and her mother died sometime later from a serious illness. And before her death, she apologized for the fact that her daughter had to suffer because of her. Standing near the graves of her parents, the main character thought that she refused to continue this miserable existence. Meanwhile, Erin turns to the maid and asks if she came in to hurry her out, and then he says that she doesn't have to worry because she's already leaving. The main character asks Miss Brennan if she realized that she was moving out. The head maid turns to the maid and screaming asks what she is doing here. The girl explains that she simply came to say goodbye to her Grace Lady Erin. Hearing these words, the head maid slapped the girl in the face, and then she called her trash and threatened to get her out of there. At this time, the main character thought that it was the maid who was behaving this way in her presence, and then he turns to Miss Brannon and asks if she thinks she is powerless, and then he tells her to immediately pack her things and leave the estate. The maid asks how it is, and the young mistress asks what's wrong with her hearing lately, and then she offers to clean her ears and smiles. Erin claims that Miss Brannon has been fired. However, the maid assures that Milady is forgetting herself, and then asks who gave her the right to give orders. The main character says that she knows that she is no longer a countess, but the ring still belongs to her, and this is not an easy ring, but the seal of the Empress. The Emperor has the Imperial seal, and with its help, he approves important state documents. And the affairs of the Imperial Palace are conducted with the help of the Empress's seal. Erin reports that the Empress has long since passed away, and the mother of Raymond the Crown Prince died in childbirth, and therefore, at the moment, the most influential woman in the Imperial Palace is her. The head maid says that the seal was given only with the title of Countess. The lady claims that she is mistaken, and then explains that the seal of the Empress was entrusted to her by the Emperor himself, and it does not depend on her title, and he ordered the affairs of the Imperial Palace to be handled, and therefore dismissal will be her last decree. The maid says that she should do what she wants, and then says that when the new countess takes over, she will return her position. However, Erin claims that she was fired before this, and then asks if she should wait 4 months. While His Majesty went to war, Raymond immediately rushed to file for divorce. The lady explains that this is a long process, and even if she returns to her position, it will not be in vain. Erin believes that it will take the Count a considerable amount of time to obtain His Majesty's consent to the marriage and then arrange the wedding, And then he claims that Miss Brannon will not get this position for a long time and thus will remain unemployed for a couple of years. The maid turns to Lady Erin. However, the young mistress says that she is divorced and from now on is the Marquise de Brasia. And then she asks how she, the wife of a knight, dares to address her like that. The head maid turns to Melly and screaming says that she will deal with her again when she is hired again. Hearing this, Erin objects and says that she won't figure it out since Melly will go with her. The main character invites Melly to go with her and says that she will open a pastry shop and the work will be harder than here, but she will be paid twice as much as pastry chefs receive. Erin turns to her maid and says that she wants Melly to work for her. Hearing this girl was delighted and then said that she agreed and thanked her mistress. At this time, the main character thought that she could not afford to pay her a salary, but she understood that it was better to take her away from here because this viper would not give her life anyway. The young mistress hugs her maid and at this time thinks that she at least saved someone. Erin invites Melly to pack her things and tells her that she will wait for her. The main character reflects on the fact that she thought that if she lost her title, she would lose everything in this life. After all, she clung to this state and this name and thought that this was the only thing she had left. But having written the final stroke of the signature and put it in pen, she felt freedom. At this time, the Count remembers that Erin said that she would open a pastry shop and thought that she had lost her mind because of the divorce. And he also remembers the first time he saw her, and she told him that it would be an honor for her to see His Highness. The young master reflects that if the Emperor had not forced another on her as a wife, he would not have treated her this way after all. After 9 years of marriage, not a single quarrel, not a single complaint, and she became completely different. The butler enters the room and reports that His Majesty the Emperor has sent the young master an urgent letter, and he assumes that His Majesty has already received news of his divorce, and then asks if he will read. Raymond argues that there is no point since he understands that it probably says to cancel the divorce and bring Erin home. Hearing this, the servant does not understand what he will do when His Majesty returns, and then he says that this cake is from Lady Serena. The young master reports that he does not need it and offers to get rid of it. Melly happily asks Milady where they will go. The main character replies that the first thing you need to do is take care of housing. The lady asks the gentleman if he has a house with living rooms for 2 ladies and premises for a restaurant, and as cheaply as possible. The man replies that he has just such a house and the building is located on Beltro Street, and then he says that there are a lot of shops around and it's quiet and peaceful, and so he thinks it's the perfect place for her woman-owned venture. The maid reports that this place is mainly inhabited by minor officials and rich merchants. The man explains that the owner of this cafe is in a hurry to move to the province, and therefore is selling the cafe at a low price, and furniture is also included in the purchase. At this time, the main character thought that the cafe was in decline. Melly saw that behind the doors there was a backyard with a garden and reported this to her mistress. When Erin saw the garden, she thought that it was very beautiful and had a peaceful look. There is also a living room, dining room, and kitchen on the ground floor, and she was worried that there was no place to cook in the cafe, but now she knows that she can cook at home. The man says that the bedroom is on the 2nd floor, and then asks if my lady likes it. At this time, the main character thought that the lower areas of the city were best for a cafe. But however, she understands that rent there is more expensive, and therefore this area is quite enough for the 2 of them. And then she gives money and says that she is buying this cafe. The inside of the house was very dirty, and the maid suggests to the mistress that she will sweep everything up. Hearing this, the main character tells her not to worry since she is no longer a duchess, and she tells her to get down to business and tells her that she will clean up. Melly says it's lunchtime and then asks what to cook. Erin takes lemon juice and mixes it with butter and then says that she will get lemon curd. She pours this entire mixture into a pre-baked pan and then he puts beaten meringue on top. The girl put it in the oven and baked at moderate temperature until the meringue became golden. A few minutes later, she pulled the sweet lemon meringue pie out of the oven. When the maid enters the room, she reports that she has finished cleaning and then asks what it smells like. The main character says she's great and then asks if she wants to try. Melly tells her mistress that she really is a great cook, and then she says that she thought it was just people talking about their family. Erin says it's lunch and hopes she likes lemons. The maid replies that she loves all fruits, and she really liked the most delicate melting cream, the refreshing spicy taste of lemon, and finally, the delicate crispy meringue. The girl enthusiastically says that this is simply fantastic. And this is probably what they serve on the Imperial throne, and it's the best pie she's ever tasted. Melly, I wonder how my lady learned to cook so well. The lady replies that she was taught by her mother, who was very fond of lemons from the Erden Mountains. Mother said that this fruit was a symbol of suffering and trouble, and she liked this lemon matter pie and often made it for her daughter. The maid does not understand why her mother thought so, and then he claims that lemons are a very common fruit, and she doesn't understand why lemon is a symbol of suffering and troubles. The main character remembers her mother, who told her that he was too sour, and then he asks his daughter if she noticed how the acidity of the lemon in the cakes becomes pleasant and sweet. Aaron says lemon pie is a symbol of overcoming adversity, and that's why this is the perfect dessert for her now. Milady says that she prepared it in secret in the Imperial Palace, and reports that she shared it only once and only with one person. And then he remembers that they didn't even have time to say goodbye. At this time, a young man with black hair looks at his city and says that he has not been the capital for a long time. The headmaid came to Serena's room and said that she had been working in this castle for 10 years, and this witch fired her. The young mistress tells the maid not to be sad. Hearing this, the maid says that Lady Serena will soon become a duchess, and truly, this is her only consolation. And then he says that the Empress's palace is more suitable for her. The Duke's mistress, Serena von Brannen, says she heard that Aaron is going to open a cafe. The maid claims that she has found the premises and has even already ordered the ingredients. Then she asks Milady if they should intervene. The blonde lady suggests leaving it. The headmaid says that it would be a stain on his lordship's reputation since his disgraced ex-wife opened a cafe and became successful. Serena says she doesn't know the restaurant business, and then asks if the cafe can do without coffee. The young lady thought about the fact that in the Imperial Palace, the walls had ears, and she understands that now that the Duchess has been expelled, she wonders whether she will become the new Duchess and whether His Majesty will allow this. Lady Serena remembers that her father is a minor aristocrat who bought his title with money, and she is now a Duchess. And she knew how much contempt they felt for her, even after her father received the title of Duke. The Emperor's mistress understands that she was trying to attract the attention of the Duke, and most of all she needed the attention of a man who could someday make her Empress, but she understands that this is all empty. Suddenly, Serena saw His Majesty and then greeted him, and at that time she thought that if she got him, then her power would be limitless. The young lady tells the Duke that there is a ball at the Flynn estate, and then asks if he knew about it. The gentleman replies that he heard, and she asks if he will agree to go with her. Suddenly, a guy with black hair approaches them and addresses the gentleman, calling him brother. Kaix reports that he has not seen him for a long time. Raymond says that he thought his brother was with His Majesty. The black-haired gentleman explains that it's not very fun there, and that's why he decided to drop by to see his brother. The guy says that grandfather is constantly out of sorts, and it's downright difficult to be around him. At this time, Serena thought that Archduke Ruthen had returned, and he is Raymond's only younger brother and next in line to inherit the throne. The Grand Ducal family of Ruthen were distant relatives of the emperors, but they took advantage of their position as members of the imperial family. The late Grandee Kaix's father died, saving the prince dear to his heart. In memory of him, the prince adopted his only son Kaix. Serena turns to His Highness and greets him, and then reports that they have not seen him in the capital for a long time. However, the young master does not pay attention to the girl, but asks the Duke how his wife Raymond is doing. The Duke does not understand what he means and asks about it. Kaix explains that this is natural since they lived together for 9 years, and now he does not see her. And he reports that grandfather also asked about her. Raymond answers that if he is so curious, then let him come and look for her himself and then leave. Serena asks His Highness to wait for her. However, the gentleman replies that he is busy today. Kaix wondered where his brother was taking his little wife. At this time, the main character spends her time in the kitchen and bakes macarons. The girl reflects on the fact that pastel pink macaron with strawberry flavor, pleasant beige macaron with vanilla flavor, a light fragrant lilac, macaron with blueberry powder, and mint green with pistachios. Erin remembers that she hasn't made them for a long time, but she did it perfectly this time. And then she tells her maid that she made macarons. Melly reports that Lady Erin is on time, as she has just made coffee, and invites them to drink together. The Marquise thanks the maid for her work, and then offers to treat herself to sweet macarons with freshly brewed coffee. The main character says that the girl's coffee is always the best. Hearing this, Melly thanks her and smiles, And then she reports that her mistress's pasta is simply fantastic. After all, the soft, crispy crust melts in your mouth along with the cream, and the sweetness and aroma are simply enchanting. And with strong coffee, it's perfection. Aaron smiles and says that she are meant to be in business together, and the maid agrees with her. And then he says that they have a display case and offers to put dummies there. The maid explains that real desserts spoil quickly, and they will take and make dummies from sugar mastic so that everyone can see. The main character heard this agrees with her and says that just as an atelier puts the best work on display, they will do the same with their cakes. And she says that she came up with a great idea. Melia asks the lady when the coffee beans are delivered and explains that she used the last one. The main character replies that they should deliver it today. Suddenly, the girls heard a knock on the door and thought that it was the suppliers who had come. When they open the door, the men say that they have brought their order, and then they say that they must pay 300 gold for one box. Hearing this, the main character thought that coffee is an expensive pleasure, and Viscount Arndt has a monopoly on the sale of coffee, and she understands that she cannot do anything. Erin understands that it's certainly expensive, but the coffee only comes out every few months, and she has to get it while it lasts. Madame says this will last them a long time. When the main character opened the box, she was surprised because she saw the grains were crooked and eaten by beetles. After what she saw, the girl realizes that these grains are missing. Erin asks the supplier why the coffee is in such poor condition, because she understands that the price is for a quality product. The man replies that his business will bother him, and if she doesn't like it, then she doesn't have to take it. And then he reports that the next delivery will only be in 2 months. Melly, confused, asks Milady what they will do, and she wonders if they will ask for a refund. The supplier says that they do not do returns. Hearing this, the maid was surprised. At this time, the main character reflects on the fact that they have always had quality grain, and she understands that anything could happen while it lies in the warehouse. However, she has a feeling that they sort out the spoiled grain and send it to some addresses while leaving the good ones for others. Melly asks in surprise what they should do, and then he claims that without coffee, they won't even be able to open. The Marquise takes the girl's hands and calms her down, and then says that she will sort everything out. Erin tells the suppliers to wait, and then says that she will pay them extra and asks if they could deliver these boxes to the specified address. Glacier Estate was a place of entertainment for the aristocracy where they played cards. The main character decided to go to this place. The butler met her near the door and said that he was seeing my lady off. While in the mansion, Erin thought about what she heard in this place. They gamble for money. But she was surprised because this house was richer than they said. The Marquise turns to Monsieur and says that she needs Viscount Arndt. The man reports that he is in the second room on the second floor. Arndt family traded with the South and had a monopoly on the sale of coffee fruits and some other exotic goods, but coffee brought them the most income. Thanks to the fabulous wealth of his family, Jacques Arndt spent his time in endless revelry in brothels and other entertainment establishments. The main character knocked on the door, but suddenly I heard a cry that the master didn't care. The girl asks if Monsieur Jacques recognizes her. Seeing the Duchess, the man asks what she is doing with him. The lady explains that she came for a visit. Arndt claims that the Duchess is no longer a Duchess, but Madame Marquise, and asks if he said correctly. And then he says that if the lady came to play cards, she was on the wrong floor since the players were on the first floor. Erin. Explain that she is not here for Togo, but about the goods that were delivered to her by his company. Hearing this, the man asks what is wrong with him. And at that time, I thought that even if she didn't like it, she couldn't do anything since the Duke kicked her out in disgrace. The Marquise says that she wants to say that the product is simply beyond praise, and then she reports that she delivered it as a gift to the Imperial Palace. Viscount Arndt heard this, broke his glass, and screaming claims that she ordered coffee for her café. Erin agrees with Monsieur. And then she says that she changed her mind and decided that black tea would be much more complimentary to desserts. Hearing this, the gentleman was surprised, because he understands what kind of coffee he sent for the Marquise. The main character asks the Viscount if he sent her a spoiled product, and then she says that she paid 300 gold pieces for a box of high-quality coffee and shows the payment document. Arndt heard this and reflects on the fact that he thought that the empty-headed Trigger was thinking of outplaying him, and then she says that her tricks are inappropriate. The gentleman explains that if His Highness receives this coffee and expresses dissatisfaction with him, he will blame everything on his subordinates, and simply apologize, and he will forgive him. And then he comes closer to the Marquise and says that he will agree with her and therefore will pay compensation. The Viscount claims that this will be her last purchase and then says that she will be considered an unreliable client. Hearing this, the main character thought that he easily threatens people taking advantage of his position. Aaron says that he is right since His Highness is merciful and will forgive him for such an oversight, and then asks if he has thought about the other merchants. The Marquise reports that they will find out about this case and that he, while completely owning the coffee market, is selling garbage, and then he asks if he thinks that none of the merchants will want to move him. The main character looked at the confused Viscount and said that she could see that he was embarrassed, and then claims that she understands that he is not used to hearing complaints about quality. At this time, Erin thought about Tom that she would not dare to say anything and force herself to laugh. However, at this time, he understands that this is in the past. The Marquise claims that if he wants her to keep this incident a secret, she invites him to send her normal goods. And she reports that after this, she will send to the Imperial Palace a letter requesting the return of a box of missing coffee. Viscount Arndt agrees with the lady and says that he will send her high-quality coffee worth 300 gold. However, the Marquise objects and offers 600 hearing. This the gentleman was surprised, and the main character explains that he must compensate for the damage caused, and the penalty. The gentleman screaming asks why on earth there is twice as much. The Marquise explains that if this does not suit him, then she will do as she intended and then says goodbye to him. Suddenly, the Viscount stops the main character, and she says that everything will be as she said. The Marquise says that she admires his foresight and then leaves and considers herself the winner. Walking down the corridor, Erin thinks that as soon as she returns, she will immediately tell Melly about this. Lost in her thoughts, the girl suddenly felt that someone was touching her hand. The stranger says she has a nice face and then asks how much she costs. Erin orders her to be released immediately. Hearing this, the man asks why she is so restive. At this time, the main character thought that she couldn't believe how someone like him was allowed in here. The stranger tells her not to upset him. Hearing this, the Marquise could not restrain herself and then kicked him in the leg with all her might. Meanwhile, the man felt pain in his leg and said that she was a sad bitch. At this time, the main character thought that he would not leave her alone, and therefore she would have to reveal her identity. Suddenly, His Highness enters the room. Seeing him, the main character thought that she knew that they would cross paths somewhere, but did not understand why he came here, since this is one of the worst places for a chance meeting. The Marquise greeted His Highness, and the man explains that he was just talking to the lady and was being rude. Raymond offers to apologize to the lady. Hearing this, the stranger asks Milady for forgiveness. And at that time, Erin thought that after what he said in front of the future emperor, he became afraid to behave like that. His Highness orders the stranger to leave. Hearing this, the man thanks him and then apologizes again. The gentleman says that he did not expect to see her in this place. The Marquise replies that she did not know about his hobby before, and she wonders if Lady Serena knows about it. Raymond says that if she doesn't have enough to live on, she could ask him for alimony, and then she claims that she doesn't need to stoop to such places. The woman was surprised when she heard this, and then asked if he thought she came here to play for money. And then she says that before jumping to conclusions, she will explain that she came here on a visit about the cafe. His Highness asks if she really wants to do this. Erin says yes. Raymond says that he knows that she was offended because of Serena, and then claims that there is no need to try so hard to annoy him. Hearing this, the Marquise asks what this means. The gentleman invites her to admit that she started her enterprise because of Serena. At this time, the girl thought that he did not understand that everything in this world did not revolve around him. Erin remembers the meeting with Siren, and when she walked, she pushed her away unwillingly, and at that time, I thought that she was a petty aristocrat in debt like silk. And then the maids reported to the Crown Prince that his wife was again oppressing Serena. The main character understands that in his heart, from the very beginning, there was no place for her. Erin turns to His Highness and says that she wants to open a cafe, and Serena has nothing to do with it. The Marquise explains that this is her old dream, and she decided to make it come true, and she has nothing more to say. The lady says that they rented a small cafe, and the simple happiness of living wherever he wants, and with the one he loves. And then he says that he will never understand this. And then she says that if this is all, then she leaves and says goodbye to the master. However, Raymond stops her and says that they did not have a relationship, but he wants her not to be in poverty. And then he invites her to tell him, and he will give her money so she can live in comfort. The young master reports that he is ready to help, and not only that. Hearing this, the main character thought that 9 years ago she would have melted from such care like a fool. But at this time, the Marquise realizes that there is no place for him in her heart, and then she says that she doesn't need money and hopes that they won't see each other again. And so she asks him to stop trying to poke his nose into her enterprise. When Raymond was left alone, he thought that he did not understand what was wrong with this girl. The butler asks His Highness if he is lost, and the master replies that everything is in order and then leaves. Raymond asks the man if he delivered the gold to them. The knight replies that the weapons will be delivered within a month. His Highness claims that he is counting on him and suggests that everything will go through without delay. Erin thought that today had been a very hard day, and she was tired. And when I entered my cafe, I saw that it was sparkling clean. The Marquise tells the maid that she has already arrived, and she managed to agree on coffee. Melly greets the lady and says that they have a visitor. The main character saw Ains and was surprised, and then he says that he went to the south by order of His Majesty, and she does not understand how he ended up here. The guy explains that he returned as soon as the end of the war was announced, and he found out what happened to her. Hearing this, Erin is surprised and asks what he is talking about. Ains explains that he should have told the truth back then, and then say that if he had stayed, she would not have had to go through all this. Ains van Lefnien is the head of the Order of the Sacred Sword, and he is her soapy childhood friend. The main character remembers her childhood and how they played, and she also remembered that it was her birthday. Ains made her a cake, and when she tried a piece, she thanked the guy because the cake turned out to be very tasty. The boy announces that he will make her a cake for each of her birthdays. However, Erin understands that he was not destined to fulfill this promise, because I heard that he was going to study at the military academy. Ains reveals that he wants to become a knight, and then claims that he will definitely write to her. Hearing this, the girl says that she understands him and will miss him. The main character recalls that when her friend turned 16, he was finally able to fulfill his dream, and she moved to the Marquis's estate, and they could no longer see each other. 13 years later, Erin learned that the Order of the Sacred Sword had a new leader. Young ladies lined up just to talk to him. After all, many ladies understood that he was still a bachelor, and therefore each of them wanted to become his wife. At this time, the main character thought that she could not get used to this estate. Ains approached her and greeted her, and then said that he had not seen her for a long time. Erin knows that Ains has returned to her life as a war hero. The Marquise says that he has already been appointed leader of the order, and then praises him. The young master explains that the higher ranks simply found him suitable for the position. However, the main character understands that such a position at court cannot be obtained without connections and pedigree. A good childhood friend and the son of a simple knight, this position must have cost him great effort. Ains says that they have been talking only about him all this time, and then asks how she herself is doing, and he reports that he has already heard everything. At this time, Erin thought that he probably wants to tell her that the Duke is having a scam with Serena, and then she tells him that she didn't expect the rumors to spread so quickly and reassures him that there is nothing to worry about. Ains apologizes for not being able to attend her mother's funeral, and he says that this time he wants to visit her grave, and then asks if it was difficult for her. Hearing this, the main character thought that it was unusual for her to hear not dirty gossip about her life as a duchess, but the issue of caring for her beloved. The girl reports that she is strong and has coped with everything, and then thanks him for his concern. Erin reveals that she thought there would never be another person in her life who cared about her, and at that time, she thought that his sparkling kindness and lilac eyes took her back to childhood, and a bright nostalgia warmed the soul. Since then, she saw Ains from time to time and was able to talk to him about things that she could not reveal to anyone else. They met openly in public, and no one could suspect anything. The Marquise reflects that she still needs to be careful since the rumors could damage their wallpaper, and she thought that maybe Ains wouldn't have a girlfriend because of her. The main character thought that it was time for her to return since the score was already close to the end. Suddenly, Erin saw Ains, who was wounded and lying on the ground unconscious. The Marquise saw blood on his shirt and then smelled an unnatural, terrible smell of red liquid and thought that it was Lucifer's poison. This poison is a terrifying, disgusting monster, and if the antidote is not applied in time, the whole body will very soon be eaten by gangrene. Erin sitting next to the guy, she thought about the fact that sometimes he really didn't look very good, but she chalked it up to simple fatigue, because it turns out that now she knew why he was unwell. Suddenly, the main character heard the voices of women coming towards them, and at that time, she thought that she should hide Ains. The Marquise knew that Lucifer's poison was not contagious. However, she understood that danger existed, and that if the infected person died, a new monster would emerge from the body. The main character understood that if he was found to have this poison, he would be killed immediately, and no one would treat him out of fear. Suddenly the guy woke up, and when he looked at his body, he realized that the girl knew everything. Aaron calms him down and tells him not to be afraid, and tells him that she will take his secret to the grave. And then he asks him to be quiet and explains that people are coming towards them. Ans claims that she cannot stay with him and suggests returning to the palace. Hearing this, the main character objects and then asks how she can leave him alone. Suddenly, the ladies approached them and saw Aaron and Ainz. And then they were surprised, and before a minute came, the whole high society was already buzzing about it. The emperor turns to Aaron and says that the Midnight Garden, the Duchess and the knight are hiding in the bushes. And then she says that everyone knows that her husband does not love her, and Ainz is also very handsome and popular among women. They have also been friends since childhood. The girl understands that for those who like to sharpen their lasses, this was a real holiday. The emperor invites the girl to explain herself. At this time, she thought that she could not say that Ainz felt ill, as this would raise unnecessary questions. Aaron explains to His Majesty that she did nothing to bring her honor down. The emperor reports that he is sending the leader of the Order of the Sacred Sword to the south for war, and therefore proposes to end it there. Sometime later, Ainz was sent to serve in the south, and after that, Crown Prince Raymond announced that he was divorcing her. At this time, the main character thought that when she remembered this, she was tormented by doubt, because she understands that there are too many coincidences, and one might even think that all this was planned. Ainz explains that he doesn't remember how he ended up there, and he didn't have any heightened health, but after he drank that evening. Aaron thinks that someone deliberately got Ainz drunk and went to great lengths to set up such a situation. And whoever did it, their goal was to harm her reputation. The Marchioness realizes that if this is the case, then it is possible that whoever did this does not even know that the knight was poisoned by Lucifer's poison, and the wound could become painful and open due to the aphrodisiac added to the alcohol. A childhood friend reveals that he has returned to tell the truth, and he says that he will come to the Duke and tell him everything, because he knows that she was just trying to help him, and all these rumors harmed her reputation. Aaron assures him that this is not necessary, and then he says that this incident was just an excuse for him, since he knows that the Duke wanted a divorce in any case. And so she herself asked him not to say a word. The main character claims that if he tells everything as it happened, then there is no way back to the castle, and in the end, only he will suffer from this, and then asks if he needs it. The guy explains that he only wants to defend her honor in front of everyone. Hearing this, the girl thought that he was insistent and then called him stubborn. Aaron turns to her childhood friend and tells her that everything will be fine, and then suggests that she take a better look around and explains that this is her new home with a cafe and she is happy. The Marquise claims that since she got divorced, she has felt freedom, and a weight has simply been lifted from her shoulders. The lady turns to the guy and offers to tell him how he feels and how his wound is. Ainz replies that he feels better because they sent an antidote from the north and it works. Aaron says she's glad to hear that. And then he says that she would not have survived his death. The main character believes that if he really needs to tell everyone the truth, she offers to do this when he is cured. After all, he understands that then they won't kill him because of the poison. The lady tells the guy to promise, and he agrees with her, and then the girl says that they haven't seen him for so long, and that's why she wants to cook something special for him. Then Aaron went into the garden, and Ainz went with her. The main character asks the guy if he remembers how they made each other a cake for their 9th birthday. Ainz replies that of course he remembers this, and then claims that it is impossible to forget. The Marquise remembers that he told her that he had never had cakes made for his birthday. The guy claims that he will never forget the taste of this cake in his life. The lady explains that the cake she made him, then thought it wasn't very beautiful, but she was very proud of what she made because he was happy. Ainz says that he has it even worse because he tried to learn from her mother, but the sponge cake never rose, and therefore the cake turned out to be very sad. Hearing this, the lady smiled and said that it was delicious. The guy says that he always dreamed of being with her, and even now he does not give up this hope. At this time, Ainz thought that he wanted to show her everything that he was worthy, and so he volunteered for the danger of the Northern Front, because he wanted to become a hero for her and gain fame and fortune, and also return to her and propose. The guy thinks that he will have the courage to tell Aaron all this. And then he remembers that he read in the newspaper that some noble people from the palace had a wedding while they were fighting monsters in the dog's cold. The knight looked carefully at the photographs in the newspaper and thought that he could not see the face, but judging by the article, it was definitely Aaron, and he realizes that she is now a duchess. An inexperienced noble lady took control of the imperial palace into her own hands. There were also rumors that her husband was having an affair with a younger aristocrat. Ainz reflects on the fact that it was very difficult for him to enter high society, but he achieved his goal. However, no casualties, of course, since he was poisoned by Lucifer. The knight thinks that he regretted everything when it happened, that because of his wound, Aaron's reputation was tarnished. At this time, the main character says that she thinks there will be enough tomatoes and then offers to go. The guy says he will carry the basket. The girl says that he is still the same polite and then thanks him. However, the young master says that there is no need to thank him. Aaron believes that there are many men who won't lift a finger for a lady and won't even lift a basket of tomatoes. And then he says that he has reason to be proud. At this time, the young master thought that he had come to terms with the idea that she had gotten married and consoled himself that at least this girl would be happy. Ainz looks at the main character and cannot get rid of the thought that he wants to be with her forever. And he thinks that she will probably consider this impudence after ruining her life. The knight reflects on the fact that when he is cured, and even when he is not cured, he will still tell the whole world the truth and justify her good name. After all, he just wants to be close to her. When they arrived at the house, the maid took the vegetables and cut them, and then asks what the main character will do. Aaron announces that she wants to make tomato soup. Hearing this, Melly was surprised and said that this soup is very complex. However, the girl assures that she is mistaken and says that there is nothing like that, and then invites her to watch him cook. The main character explains that you first need to fry the meat in oil in a frying pan until cooked, and then add the vegetables and fry everything together. After this, you need to add refrying to the broth and also add spices and tomatoes and then cook. A few minutes later, the maid reports that her mistress has made a very magnificent soup, which is rich in taste and aroma. Aaron turns to her friend and says, it's not the most festive dish, but she hopes he likes it. At this time, he thinks that he needs to hold back. In a few minutes, the plate became empty, and the young gentleman said with admiration that this soup was simply fantastic. And then he remembers that he tried many different dishes from the Northerners, and then claims that only she cooks so deliciously. Melly agrees with the knight and says that he is right. And then he says that Lady Aaron is the best cook because she understands that the freshness of tomatoes goes perfectly with potatoes and meat. The maid asks the young master if he wants more, and he replied that he didn't mind, and then he claims that the main character is an excellent cook and her desserts are worthy of a royal table. Ainz believes that when she opens the cafe, he is sure it will become the most popular place, and then asks what she will name her cafe. Aaron says that she has long thought of a name, and then remembers her mother and says that she wants to call her Cafe Lemon. At the same time, noble ladies gathered at the estate of Count Flynn. One of them says that Mrs. Serena is simply brilliant today, and it's not for nothing that she is called the first beauty of the imperial court. Hearing this, the lady says that they are flattering her, and the girl with green hair says that she heard that the Duke gave the Duchess a divorce for her betrayal. Siren says it's true, and at that time she noticed that His Highness Kaix had arrived. The girls immediately drew attention to the young master. After all, everyone wanted to become his wife. Sitting at the table, the girl noticed that the gentleman looked in their direction, and at this time, Serena thought that he was sharpening his grudge against her. Kaix has always been like this. He is the only brother of His Highness, and Serena tried to get close to him. However, he always ignored her. The Duke's mistress thought that she did not want him to treat her like that in public, and then he turns to the ladies and says that she will go away for a while and explains that she needs to talk with her stepfather. When the lady left, the girls began to gossip that the wife of Duke Raymond, who had been expelled in disgrace, had opened a cafe in the eastern part of the capital, and the other lady says that this is not even a cafe, but a pastry shop where they serve coffee and sweets. The marquise with green hair claims that if she opened a cafe, she would do it in the center of the capital, and she does not raise why the Duchess chose the outskirts. The girl with red hair suggests that she probably wants to avoid unnecessary attention and live with the leader of the knighthood. The lady with blue hair says that their former Duchess had a very clever idea, and she lives away from the city center and enjoys happy days with her lover. Suddenly, Kaix approaches them and asks which lover they are talking about. The young ladies were very surprised when they heard this. His Highness apologizes and says to be forgiven for scaring them, and then he explains that he simply could not ignore such a conversation. And again, he apologizes for what he overheard. The girl with red hair says that His Highness has nothing to apologize for. The gentleman turns to the lady and says that she is very kind, and then he asks if the conversation about his daughter-in-law was true. Kaix believes that he missed everything because he has not visited the capital for a long time. At this time, the girls thought that the emperor had forbidden the spread of gossip about Aaron. The young master asks why the ladies are silent, and then says that he is very curious and offers to tell. He also reports that he knows that his grandfather forbade talking about this at court, and then he claims that this is not an imperial palace. Hearing this, the girl with red hair thought that everything could be told to the master since the emperor would forgive him everything. However, she still doesn't know if she can trust him. The girl reports that the former Duchess hugged Ainz. They were caught with the leader of the knighthood in the garden at night, and they were hiding in the bushes, and then reports that he himself must understand what the man and woman were doing at night. Lady with red hair says that after the divorce, the Duchess bought a cafe further from the center. Hearing this, the young master asks if she thinks what the Duchess did because she wants to meet her lover there, and then asks if she saw them herself in the bushes that night. Milady objects and says no, and Lady Melvin told her about it. Kaix claims that she saw it, but the girl again objects and says that it is for her, said Count Lenovel. The gentleman again asks if he saw it. Milady objects and says that the maid told him this. His Highness thinks it might be the maid the witness, and then asks what her name is and where she can be found. The lady heard this felt confused, and then did not understand what she should answer. Kaix believes that she madam heard a story told by someone unknown, and retells it to everyone with such confidence as if she had seen everything herself. At this time, the girl thought that she had been caught, and that maybe he was acting friendly, but she should not forget that he was the only Archduke of the Empire. And also, all the sympathies of the Emperor were on his side, and therefore she had to keep her mouth shut. Milady turns to His Highness, and then begs him to forgive her. Kaix says that if Madame wants to live, then it is better for her not to chat in vain about what she does not know. When the young master went out onto the balcony, he thought that he hated the capital, because there was a lot of dirt in it, and then he wondered what the hell kind of lover the Duchess had. His Highness reflects on the fact that the palace is a place where maids officials and countless guards, soldiers and nobles constantly walk. And if the Duchess really intended to meet her lover in secret, she would have invited him to her chambers. And then Kaix wondered what kind of secret meeting may be in the garden, and she would never do that. Suddenly, a knight approaches His Highness and says that he has news from the south, and then he reports that His Majesty is returning to the capital. At this time, the woman being outside thought that it was very hot, and she understood that summer was still far away. Suddenly, she saw a cafe and thought that she could take a break there. The ladies don't understand when the new cafe appeared, and then she read that the cafe was a pastry shop and thought that previously this could only be found in the city center. The maid greets the visitor and then asks how she can help her. The stranger sat down at the table and thought that it was very cozy inside. The waitress asks what she will order, and at this time, the lady is thinking that she should not take desserts from an unfamiliar place, and then he orders a cup of iced tea. Melly gives the woman a cup of iced tea and a scone. An opening gift, the woman thought about how this completely new cafe turned out and thinks that she was lucky. Madame tasted the cake and thought that she had never tried such scones, because they are so nice and tender and just melt in your mouth. The woman enthusiastically turns to the waitress and says that they have wonderful scones. The main character explains that she makes them with cream to make them more tender, and then he suggests trying it with strawberry jam and claims that it will be even tastier. A stranger says this one has a very bright and sweet strawberry jam with nice creamy scones, and then she reports that she has never tasted such a refreshing iced tea with the exquisite aroma of black tea, and this is a wonderful combination. The customer asks to bring her another millefeuille. A few minutes later, the main character brings the order. The woman looked at him and said that he was delicious, and at that time, she thought that this dessert was very difficult to find and she had never seen it. And when she tried a piece, she said that it was very tasty. At this time, Aaron thought that the gift scones were almost ready, and since today was opening day, it would be good to please the first visitors. Also, the main character made more cookies and wants to serve them after dinner. Suddenly, the girl doesn't understand why she's quiet, and then asks Melly what happened. The butler has arrived from the Imperial Palace and addresses Lady Erin. And then he says that he has come to tell her that the Emperor is summoning her. 9 years ago, Lady recalls that the Emperor told her that he had heard rumors that since she married Raymond, he had constantly shown her disdain and hostility. His Majesty says that he understood that this marriage would not be easy, but he did not know that everything would be so disastrous. The Emperor believes that this is entirely his fault, and then turns to Lady Erin and asks her to accept his sincere apology. Hearing this, the girl assures the Emperor that everything is fine with her, and then invites him to raise his head. And then she says that she is grateful to him for what he did for her parents. His Majesty claims that while he is alive, the lady can count on any support and help. The butler reports that His Majesty has ordered him to escort Lady Erin to the palace. Hearing this, the girl is surprised and asks if the king allows her to return. The servant objects and says that His Majesty wishes to ask her for help. Hearing this, the girl thought that His Majesty was the same as before, and then she thanked the mission and said that she did not have the slightest desire to return, and then asks to convey to His Majesty her deepest gratitude. Erin tells the butler to wait, and then dials some cookies for the Emperor. The lady says that this is a trifle and asks that it be handed over to the Majesty. When the Emperor saw the cookies, he thought that this was to be expected since he understood that the lady was offended, and then he offers to cover Raymond. The Emperor asks the Duke if he knows why he called him. Raymond explains that he discussed everything with her like civilized people, and this divorce was a reasonable decision made together. And then he explains that usually when people are not suitable for each other, so that they do not torture each other, they get divorced. His Majesty claims that he and Erin are the future Emperor and Empress and not some ordinary couple. Raymond claims that he knows this, and therefore could not allow rumors of her infidelity to tarnish the honor of the royal family. Hearing this, the Emperor thought that he had invested so much in his and Kaix's education, but for some reason this did not make them smarter. And this boy continues to do everything his own way. The Emperor remembers the day he told Raymond that he would be getting married. Hearing this, the Duke explained to him that he could not and did not want to marry someone he did not love. His Majesty asks if he intends to continue to disdain Erin and bring another woman to the palace. And at that time, I thought that this girl should be his wife. The Emperor claims that this is a rumor and nothing more than a rumor. And then he says that this is not a reason to divorce his wife after 9 years of marriage. His Majesty believes that Erin is a good, decent girl, and besides, she has proven herself excellent in the management of palace affairs, and she has been too kind to them. Raymond claims that His Majesty has always been so generous to her, and then he says that if she is the future of the empire, it does not mean that he himself must make peace with her. The Duke reports that their divorce proceedings cannot be stopped, and then he asks if maybe he himself wants to marry her, and then he says that he doesn't mind. After his words, the Emperor poured a cup of tea in his face. Seeing this, the butler gives him a napkin, and the Emperor claims that he must bring Erin home. However, Raymond objects and says that this is impossible and explains that she has already signed the divorce papers. The Emperor claims that he cannot divorce at all without his permission, and then says that these documents are a filk's letter, because he is the Emperor and he is his grandson. And therefore, if he wanted to get a divorce, he had to come and ask his permission. His Majesty orders Raymond to bring his wife to him, and then says that he does not want to hear anything about divorce. When the Duke left the Emperor's room, Serena saw him and asked how he was doing. However, the angry gentleman tells them to leave now. Hearing this, the lady does not understand what happened and asks about it. However, Raymond asks if they are deaf and then screaming again, orders them to leave. Serena thought that something had gone wrong. After all, she was thinking that if she got rid of Erin, she herself would become a duchess. The mistress recalls that that night she drugged the leader of the knighthood to create a compromising situation. Serena understands that the drug did not work as expected, and the incriminating evidence did not turn out to be particularly hot and ardent. From however, she hoped that His Highness would leave this girl and become hers. The mistress reflects on the fact that His Majesty refuses to recognize her and deprived Raymond of his status as crown prince. And she also doesn't understand what's so special about this girl and why she's better than her. Serena thought that if she just eliminated Erin, then the Duke would finally be hers. There were rumors in the capital that someone had moved from the Imperial Palace to the eastern part of the city and opened a cafe there. And the other man says that he also heard because they came for her from the palace and asked to return. The cook says that he heard that she did not agree and instead sent a magnificent dessert as a gift to the emperor. And then they wondered who this person was. A stranger who was in this cafe says that she knows her personally, and she definitely has something to do with the emperor's palace because there is a royal monogram hanging at the end of her cafe. Milady heard this and wondered if the nobles from the emperor's palace ordered desserts from her. The woman explains that she found this cafe by chance, and then she reports that she was very pleasantly surprised by the sophistication of the desserts and drinks, and then asks whether an ordinary cafe owner can afford to purchase such high-quality ingredients. Suddenly, a girl with long black hair approaches the lady and apologizes for interfering in their conversation, and then asks if it is all rumors or not. The girl with short hair says that everything happens for a reason, and then he asks why there would be a ban on talking about this if there were no basis for these rumors. The stranger claims that if this were not true, the cafe would be supported with all their might, and then he reports that they act as if the cafe does not exist and everything they say is not true. And so she is sure of one thing: the dessert was really sent to the palace. At this time, the main character is making an apple pie, but after sitting down for a minute, she thought that there were a lot of visitors today, and that's why she ran around. And then I thought that I would have to visit Ainz and thank him for the gift. Melly turns to Lady and says that she should come because someone sent her a package, and then asks if she ordered such an expensive service. Erin objects and says that this is the first time she has seen this set. The guy reports that they asked her to give her a note. When the main character read the note, she thought that this gift was made by Ainz, and she understands that it is very expensive, and she thinks that she already has enough expenses. But he helped her with this just in time. A few minutes later, the pie arrived, and the main character pulled it out of the oven. The girl understands that this pie was a success for her because it had a golden crust and the aroma of apples, and it looked very appetizing. Erin thought that it just needs to be cut up and then it can be sold. Suddenly, the girl heard screams that he was being mistaken for a beggar, and when she opened the door, she saw Melly on the floor. The maid turns to the mistress and says that this is the same man. The guy screams and demands to call the owner of the cafe, and then claims that their waitress has bad manners. Erin reveals that she is the owner of the cafe, and then asks how he behaves and claims that this is unacceptable. The man tells them to listen to him, and then says that he paid her waitress 10 gold, but she claims that he only paid 10 silver, and says that he is some kind of scammer. Melly explains that he paid in silver, and then demanded change, claiming that he had given her 10 gold pieces. And she tried to call for help, but there were only 2 ladies in the cafe, and they were afraid of this boor. The buyer turns to the main character and reports that she herself saw that this gentleman gave exactly 10 silver coins. Hearing this, Erin claims that she has witnesses, and then asks what he will say in his defense. Hearing this, the man screaming says that they were stunned, and then throws a bag of coins at the girl. He says it's his wallet, and then claims that if they don't believe him, they can do the math themselves. When the main character opened the bag, she saw silver coins and then threw them at the man. Erin invites this guy to count his money himself, and then he says that not only was he not taught as a child how to behave in the presence of ladies, but he was not even taught mathematics. Hearing this, the guy raised his hand angrily and seemed to want to hit the main character, but suddenly he felt pain and then fell to the floor. Black-haired man claims that this guy almost made the worst mistake of his life, and then he turns to Madame and says that he came on time. Kaix greets the Marquise and says that he has not seen her for a long time, and then asks what happened. He looked at the guy who was lying on the floor and then apologizes for the fact that the lady had to go through this, and then he stands with his foot on his chest. The young master turns to Madame and then says that if she allows, he will kill this dog's son. Hearing this, the main character objects and says that this should not be done. After all, she understands that no one will want to come to a pastry shop where a person was killed. His Majesty turns to the guy and calls him a dog, and then tells him to leave before he changes his mind. Erin addresses the customers who were there at the time, and then apologizes for the scene. The main character turns to His Highness and asks why in fact he came. The young gentleman explains that his former relative opened a cafe, and then asks if he might be curious. And then she says that it turns out that every day there are events with her. Hearing this, the main character claims that he is exaggerating, and then explains that she does not have this every day. And then she says that in any case, she is grateful to him for his help. Erin invites the gentleman to retire for a cup of tea, and then says that she is afraid that he cannot avoid attention. At this time, the maid turns to Milady and informs her that the customer is waiting for her outside. Hearing this, the gentleman says that he understands that she has a lot to do, and then says that he will go to another one. The main character asks in surprise if he is leaving His Majesty, explains that he did what he wanted, and visited her new cafe. Hearing this, the girl thought that he had just come to look at the cafe. Aaron turns to Monsieur, and then apologizes for the fact that he had to wait so long for her and asks how she can help him. The customer explains that he came on the orders of Lady Catherine von Levant, and he reports that my lady would like to order a cake for her establishment for the day after tomorrow's tea party. Hearing this, the main character thought that Lady Katerina was the granddaughter of the Prime Minister, and she doesn't understand why the Duchess would order from such a modest pastry shop. The servant reports that my lady asks her to personally come to the tea party and present the cake. I heard this girl think that now she understands what the matter is, and this Duchess does not need cake at all, because she understands that she wants to put on a show and reflects that she has no reason to refuse since this will not scare her. Aaron tells her to tell my lady that she has accepted the order, and then the main character of Inception prepares cupcakes. Suddenly, a gentleman approached the Marquise with a spoon in his hands. Seeing him, the girl asks in surprise what His Highness is doing here. Kalika says remotely that Marquise starts her workday very early, and then he explains that he came to see how his former relative worked, and says that he also wants dessert with kelp. When Aaron heard this, she thought that she was divorced, and now they were no one to each other, and she is not related to him at all. However, the girl understands that he has always treated her well. Crown Prince Kaix was orphaned early, and was adopted by a prince from the Imperial family, a friend of his father. But 2 years later, the prince fell ill with a serious illness. The emperor took pity on the boy and raised him as his own grandson, and also spoiled him. Therefore, Kaix grew up free, kind, and independent. Aaron remembers when she first arrived at the Imperial palace. She was very shy. However, he showed concern for her and always invited her to play together, and he also made sure that she did not remain hungry. The main character turns to His Highness and explains that she is busy today. Hearing this, the gentleman says that he will see how she works. The Marquis says he's probably bored and then offers to take the cookies she made for the guests. Aaron remembers the strict Imperial etiquette and the huge list of tasks for which the Duchess is responsible, and she understands that it made her head spin. And in the Imperial palace, she was surrounded by hostile people who constantly discussed her personal life behind her back. The girl remembers that Kaix has always been a ray of light and kindness in her life. And when he grew up, he moved to his estate, and they never saw each other again. And at that time, she thought about the fact that she had never even imagined that they would meet under such circumstances. Aaron turns to His Highness and tells him that there is nothing interesting in her work, and he will be bored, and then asks if he might like to take a walk and look at the views. Hearing this, the young master asks if she is laughing, and then he explains that it's boring everywhere in the capital, and he doesn't want to go for a walk. There are balls every day, and he feels good on her estate where no one bothers him. The girl agrees with him and says that she understands him and can imagine it. He asks if she wants to visit him, and then says that no one will offend her there. Aaron says that she has to work, and says that she will take these desserts to the cafe since they are on sale for tomorrow. And then he turns to His Highness and says that if he wants anything else, he can open the cabinet in which there are cookies. Kaix tells the lady that she is forgetting that he has grown out of such childhood habits, and at that time, he thought that she was doing better than he expected. After all at court, she constantly had to play a role, and she could not say what she thought. And today, for the first time, he saw that she stood up for herself. The young master looks at the girl and claims that she has changed. Aaron asks Melly how the sculpting is going. The girl replies that she made a couple of macarons and then asks if the lady wants me to see. Having seen the macarons, the main character enthusiastically says that they are like real ones, and then claims that she knew that her maid was a craftswoman. The Marquise reports that she will go away on business for a while, and then says that His Highness is staying with them, and therefore invites the girl to look after him. The maid wonders where Milady is going and asks about it. The main character replies that she is going to Buyer Street to get ingredients because she needs something for Lady Catherine's cake. Melly claims that it will be dark soon, and then suggests that she go instead. However, the Marquise objects and says that she needs to see for herself what she is buying, and then she leaves and says she'll be back soon. At this time, Raymond thinks that the Emperor is a stubborn old man, and from that day on, he never accepted her request for an audience, and he doesn't want to see him until he gets Aaron back. The young master does not understand what he sees in her. However, he reflects on the fact that she is from a noble family, but he does not see much greatness in her. The coachman reports that they have already arrived. When the prince entered the cafe, he thought that he did not understand how the former Duchess lived in such a place. He also wondered if she would prepare these desserts herself. Raymond recalls that his wife was engaged in baking for sale before marriage. The young master remembers that Serena told him that the Duchess received a birthday present, and he would not believe it because it was pie crusts. Hearing this, he asks what nonsense. The mistress claims that this is exactly what happened. And then she explains that the fact is that she went and sold pies on the street to help her family with debts, and they were probably so poor that she wasn't even ashamed of it. At this time, Raymond thought that his wife was selling baked goods on the street, and he did not attach any importance to it then. And in his life, she was not interested in him at all. When the maid entered the room, she greeted the prince. The gentleman asks where Aaron is. At this time, Melly thought that the lady would not be happy about his arrival, and then he says that she left for the ingredients and won't be around for a long time, and then asks if His Highness could come later. Raymond says he will wait. At this time, the main character left the store and thought that she had been there for a long time. After all, she saw that the streets were empty, and this made her feel somehow uneasy, and that's why she needs to come back soon. Suddenly, it seemed to Aaron that the man had been watching her before, and then she starts running. However, the stranger runs after her and grabs her. The Marquise hit him in the face with her bag, and at that time, she thought that she needed to save herself, but since her skirt was long, it was in the way, and in her haste, she fell. When the girl looked back, she saw a man, and he claims that she still can't escape from him, and then he pulls out a bladed weapon. Aaron screams, asks why he's attacking, and then says that if he wants money, she'll give it to him. The robber replies that he does not need her pennies, and then he says that he is sorry, but he follows the order and attacks the lady with a knife. At this time, the main character closed her eyes, and when she opened it, she saw that the robber was lying next to her on the ground, and he was wounded. Kaix asks if he hurt her. Seeing the young master, the girl asks how he ended up here. The crown prince gives the woman his hand and offers to help her. However, the marquise says that everything is fine and she can get up herself. But suddenly, she felt that her legs were not obeying her. The young master tells her not to be afraid, and then claims that he wants to help her, and lifts the girl up, and then asks if she knows this person. Aaron replies that she left the store, and he attacked her. The young master reflects that it was probably a robber, and at this time, the girl thought that this was not an ordinary robber. And if he needed money, then there was no point in killing her, because she knows that thieves don't do that, because the body of the murdered person can be found. The lady reports that he said he was ordered to kill her, and she doesn't understand why her. After all, she is no longer a duchess, and her honor continues to be trampled on by rumors of betrayal. And if anyone would like to cause her even more harm, it would be the prince's mistress. Kaix turns to Milady and says that she is probably confused, and then he claims that he will take her back to the cafe, since she needs to move on from what happened, and she is in no danger with him. Walking on the way home, Aaron wonders how His Highness knows where she is. He explains that the lady did not return to the house for a long time, and he asked her waitress. And when he arrived, he discovered that a villain was chasing her. The young master reports that he is glad that he made it on time. The young lady thanks him for saving her life. Hearing this, the crown prince asks if she will allow him to come to her cafe every day and eat cakes. Aaron smiled and said that this is not discussed, and she is waiting for him. His Majesty suggests that the girl should never go to such places alone again, and then claims that it is dangerous there. He also suggests that it is best to send a maid or hire another servant. The main character thanks for your concern, and at this time, he remembers that when they met, he was still a very young boy, and now he is already an eligible groom, and she won't know who this man next to her is. When they arrived at the cafe, the marquise thanked His Highness for seeing her off. She also claims that she will not remain in debt. Suddenly, Raymond opened the door and asked in surprise what Kaix was doing with Aaron at this hour. Hearing this, the main character asks His Highness what he is doing here, and I wonder if he was waiting for the idea. However, the prince does not answer, but claims that he wants to ask her what she is doing with Kaix at this hour. Aaron, surprised, asks if she really needs to answer, and then he tells her no matter what she does or who she meets, and she wonders if he has any reason to be interested in this. And then he claims that they are now nobody to each other. Raymond heard this and asks what she is saying. Kaix apologizes and then reveals that he hasn't seen that expression on his face in a long time. And then he says that he will tell it himself. The young master says that he saved his former relative from a robber, and he took her home because it's dangerous on the street now. Hearing this, the prince asks if the robber attacked her, and then he wonders if the marquise was hurt. Aaron replies that she is fine, and it is thanks to Monsieur Kaix, and then thanks him for his interest. The marquise asks why he came, and then says that she cannot stand indefinitely and offers to come in. Raymond invites the girl inside and says that she is probably tired, and then says that he will come another time. And then he turns to his brother and claims that he also needs to go home. At this time, the main character was surprised because the principal was worried about her, and then she said goodbye to them. Kaix tells the marquise that he will return tomorrow. The black-haired guy says that the scoundrel who attacked his sister was not an ordinary robber, and in one of the nooks and crannies of Bayard Street lies a body. And then he offers to take a closer look at his girl. At this time, Raymond thought that Kaix had been sitting quietly in his north, and now he had come to his domain and was trying to teach him life. And he wondered if he realized that he was not just an adopted child, but a descendant of kings. The prince remembers that 15 years ago in the emperor's palace, he found his brother in his father's study. They weren't considered brothers, but they got along well at a young age, and Kaix was a very sweet boy. Raymond informs his brother that the emperor is calling him and invites him to go quickly, and also informs him that he himself will collect the scattered books. The prince reflects on the fact that even if Kaix inherits the title of Grand Duke, will be from his father, and will be higher in status than him, then he will still remain a person of royal blood unlike him. And therefore, he understands that he has nothing to worry about. But then Raymond found this letter that was written for dear Tira. The prince realizes that Tira is Kaix's mother, and she is the Grand Duchess, and these are his father's handwriting. Her father writes that roses have bloomed in the Imperial garden, and he is sending her a bouquet of them as a gift, and he regrets that he cannot be with her at this time. And he learned about her imminent marriage, and his fate saddens him. The father cannot leave the Imperial palace, just as she cannot give up the surname Ruthin. Tira wrote a letter in response, in which she indicated that when her marriage was concluded, he should no longer write to the Grand Duchess since it was not appropriate. The Duchess writes about their happy time together. "Hey dear, but this is just a memory." And she wishes him happiness in his new life. Raymond realizes that his father and the Grand Duchess were lovers, and the last letter was sent shortly before the marriage, and at this time, the young master thought that he might be of royal blood. His father adopted Kaix and raised him as his own, and it turns out not because Kaix's father is his best friend. At this time, the crown prince informs the knight that a body lies in one of the districts along Bayard Street, and then orders him to find and identify it. Sitting in the carriage, Raymond thought that even if Kaix knows something, he is not going to yield to him in anything. Aaron ponders that Lady Catherine's cake should be delivered in the afternoon, and she remembers that she has lost all the ingredients and does not understand what to do. The main character thought that there was no chocolate, and there was no point in even starting to make a cake, and she cannot ask for a deferment since this would be a blow to her establishment. The girl is thinking about what one of the ready-made cakes from the counter might bring. At Duke Levant's estate, the ladies are sitting at the table and wondering if the Duchess will bring them a cake. One girl suggests that she won't come because she doesn't know how to make cakes. After all, she had definitely heard that the cafe was just an excuse and a cover to meet with that same night. The girl with brown hair suggests that they stop and not talk about it in front of Lady Catherine. Lady Katerina is in love with Commander Ains. The butler informs the ladies that Marchioness Erin has arrived with a cake. When the customer sees her, she says that she is glad to see her, and then he says that they were waiting for her, and they can't wait to see her in a magnificent cake, and then he offers to present. The main character thanks Lady Katerina for trusting their establishment, the Lemon Confectionery Cafe, and then he claims that the young lady knows a lot about delicious chocolate desserts. Aaron claims the cake is full of chocolate, but in the classic version, Sacher is slightly modest in his appearance, and then explained that that's why she decided to do something special for the young ladies' tea party, and she hopes they'll like it. When the ladies saw the cake, they were surprised by its exquisite decoration, and the girl with brown hair asks if it's real flowers or cream. The main character explains that this is white chocolate hearing. This the girl was surprised by her hair, Erin says that she thought for a long time before she came up with the idea to decorate the cake with something equally delicious and beautiful at the same time. At this time, Erin thought that it was good that she had time to do everything. After all, she understands that it was not easy, since at first she did not have the ingredients. And then she remembers that when she opened the door, she saw the bag that she had lost in the evening. She wondered who left her. The girl remembers that only 3 people know about what happened yesterday, and that is His Highness Kaix and Melly. The main character reflects on the fact that Melly has gone to bed, which means she should be doubly grateful to Kaix. And she wondered how he got into the yard unnoticed. And at that time, she thought that she needed to make the fence higher. Lady Catherine is a little confused because she didn't expect her friends to like the cake so much, and then she thought that she would check if the cake was good. The lady with red hair says that she thought the chocolate would be bitter, but the cake is very soft, and her friend asks how she likes apricot jam in a sponge cake. And then she says that she would eat such a cake every day. At this time, Katerina cannot believe that he is so good. But when I tried it, I thought it was true since it was a sweet cake with a slight hint of chocolate bitterness, and it harmonizes very well with the bright sweet and sour taste of apricot jam, and it creates the perfect balance with the rich chocolate flavor. Katerina cannot imagine that Lady Ern made it herself. The main character asks Madame if they liked it. At this time, the customer thought that she actually wanted to find fault and criticize, but he understands that it is so tasty that it is pointless to lie. And then he says that the cake is not bad and even tasty. The Marquise says that she is glad because they liked the cake. One of the women asks if Lady Erin will make her a cake too, and the lady agrees. The lady with lilac hair says that she has a tea party for the next week, and then asks if she can order a cake too. Suddenly, Serena comes up to them and says that she also wants to order a cake, and then she says that she has not seen Lady Erin for a long time. The main character greeted the prince's mistress Serena, wonders where Erin has been, and then he says that she also wanted to invite her to dinner, but she disappeared somewhere. The Marchioness assures her that she need not worry as she no longer lives in the palace, and then she asks if she wanted to order a cake, madam. Serena announces that in 5 days there will be a ball at the Imperial Palace, and it would be nice if the lady made her a cake for this day, and then he says that there will be no end to customers. Erin takes the prince's mistress by the hand and says that she has a great idea, and then she says that she will bake the most exquisite cake for this occasion. Serena turns to Lady Erin and says she's happy for her, because she does not suffer from excessive modesty, and then she reports that she was so worried because her affair with the commander and the knights saw the light of day. Then she is ashamed to show herself to people, and he says that the lady lives well is doing well and she envies her. At this time, the main character thought that she was the same as before, and sarcasm was caustic, and she also had feigned concern. Erin turns to Lady Serena and says she flatters her, and then asks where she can get to her. After all, she who has been openly for 9 years has been in a relationship with a married man. The main character claims that if she is not ashamed to show herself to people, then she does not understand why she should be. And she says that she won't hide it because it was hard for her, but she was inspired by the courage of Lady Serena. The Marquise reports that for her, she is an example of a confident, liberated woman. The ladies were surprised when they heard this. And the main character says that she will make the best cake that she will definitely like. Melly turns to the Marquise and says that the order from Serena is somehow strange for her, and then asks if she thinks this might be a trick. After all, the prince's mistress always plotted against her while she lived in the Imperial Palace. The lady replies that of course this is a trick and she understands it perfectly, and the maid asks what to do now. After all, she understands that the lady accepted the order and it cannot be cancelled. However, the Marquise calms her down and tells her not to be afraid. After all, she has a rough idea of what exactly she is up to. Melly turns to the main character and says that she doesn't want her to continue to suffer, because she understands that the lady has moved out of the palace and is living her own life, but now she doesn't sleep at night because of these stupid orders. Erin explains to the maid that she cannot make a cake for the ball carelessly, and then he claims that the better the cake, the higher will be the prestige of their establishment, and also her prestige. The main character reports that she is tired of being a silent target, and now she is going into battle herself. Suddenly, 2 girls come into their cafe. The eldest of them turns to Madame and asks if she can buy them a cake. The waitress apologizes and then says that they are already closed for today, and then he invites the girls to come tomorrow. The little girl screaming explains that they just want any cake and they will pay and leave. The girl states what she needs today and asks if they understand. Erin asks the cutie why she needs it today. The little girl replies that today is her birthday. Hearing this, the main character thought that parents usually make cake for children and thinks that perhaps these children are in trouble. The Marquise reports that she still has ready-made cakes and then says that if they want, she will make a cake for them right now. Hearing this, the girls were delighted and then thanked Madam. Erin asks the girl what kind of cake she likes, and then he offers to tell her that she can make anything to suit any taste. The girl enthusiastically replies that she wants a cake in the shape of a cat, and then he asks the lady to make her and the cat a cake. The main character remembers that her mother often made cookies for her in the shape of cats. Elder sister Serena explains that cookies can be made, but a cake cannot be made in the shape of a cat. However, the little girl claims that she loves cats. The girl with red hair asks her sister not to be capricious, and then explains that the kind auntie agreed to make one for her, and although the cafe is already closed. At this time, Erin thought that apparently children care more about what the cake looks like than what it tastes like, and so she can draw something, and then she says that she understood what the order should be, and claims that she will make the cat anyway. The lady asks if the girl minds if the cream is cream. The little girl happily replied that she didn't mind. The Marquise tells Melly to make the girls tea and says that she is going to make a cake. The main character reflects on the fact that the simplest thing is to cut out the cakes in the shape of a head with ears. However, she understands that she wants to do something special for her child's birthday. And suddenly, she had an idea. Erin thinks that there is such a technique, but she is not sure if she will succeed. After a few minutes, the main character reveals that she tried to make him as cute as possible and then asks if they like it. When the girls saw what they saw, they were very happy, and then they said that he was very cute. And they also wonder what these cats are for and whether they can be eaten. The Marquise explains that it is made from marzipan, and then she says that she has some left after making the petals and offers the girls to take it if they want. The little girls tried a piece and then turned to their aunt and said that it was very tasty. Hearing this, the lady says okay, and then says that she will pack the cake and asks the girls to wait. Big sister asks how much the cake costs. Erin replies that the cake is made from leftovers, so it will be free. Hearing this, the girl objects and says that she cannot do this since her parents always said that you cannot take something and not pay. Hearing this, the Marquise thought that she was a very smart girl, and then he names the price of 1 silver. Erin says it's dark outside, and then asks the girls if they can get there on their own. The elder sister replies that they only have to walk to Buyer Street, and they work there in a fruit shop. And then she thanks Madam for making such a beautiful cake. The main character thought that she was very sorry that such young children had to work, and that was probably why the older sister was so smart. The waitress reports that she has cleaned up the mess. And then she says that my lady helped the poor children, although her working day was long over, and says that she has a good heart, and then she offers to always be like that. Erin turns to Melly and tells her that she wants to ask her something, and it's about Serena. And then she says that thanks to these girls she got an idea. After some time, the maid informs Lady Serena that she has received a letter from the Marquise Erin. The mistress read a letter in which it was written that Erin would send a cake worthy of being the decoration of her ball, and she hopes that she will be so kind as to show the cake to the guests. I read the letter, Serena tore it up, and at that time I thought that Erin was quite calm for a woman who had been kicked out of high society in disgrace, because she understands that she hates living in the capital while she lives happily ever after and sells her biscuits. The prince's mistress remembers that she sent an assassin, but does not understand where Kaix came from and saved her. She understands that His Highness loves Kaix, and therefore she cannot reach him, and she doesn't understand why he spends time with Erin. Serena knocks on His Highness Raymond's office and tells him that she needs to tell him something, and at this time she reflects on the fact that if she cannot hurt Erin directly, then she will have to act differently. The Crown Prince asks what she wants. The lady explains that she is throwing a ball at her estate tomorrow night, and then she really asks him to join her. The young master heard this and does not understand why he should go to her estate, and at this time the mistress thought that he had lost interest in her since the last time he communicated with His Majesty, and she is sure that he will not be able to reject her proposals. Serena turns to His Highness and says that he hasn't been out in public with her for a month, and then he offers to understand her correctly, since there are already rumors that she has lost his favor. And then you assure him that he says this no matter how much you worry about him. After all, he understands that such rumors can harm His Highness. Serena claims he cuckolded his wife for 9 years and even filed for divorce because he had an affair, and if he leaves her, he will be left alone with anger. His Majesty and his problems, and she understands that he is proud and will never admit that he was wrong. The Crown Prince announces that he will go. The mistress turns to His Highness and claims that he is truly generous, and then she says that she needs to go and offers to see him tomorrow evening. At this time, Serena thought that even if she was disgusted with him, she would never let him go. The next day, Kaix came to the boutique and asked what Lady Erin thought. He also wondered which dress she liked best. And then he says not to rely on him since he is not a great expert in fashion. At this time, the main character thought that only recently she had been at home and made cakes, and she did not understand how she ended up here. An hour ago at Erin's house, the young master reports that he didn't know it was so difficult. The main character calms him down and says that he doesn't have to help her and suggests not to worry. At this time, the Marquis thought about what she told him that he could come to the cafe whenever he wanted, but he understands that he comes too often. The lady addresses His Highness and says that their frequent meetings will only spoil his reputation and asks how he does not understand this. Melly turns to Lady Erin and says that she did what she asked, and then he says that everything is ready to send the cake to the Brennan estate. The Marquis thanked the maid and said that she was on time everywhere, and then he says that tomorrow she will go to the ball herself and invites her to rest after dinner. Hearing this, the girl was delighted and thanked the lady. Kaix asks Lady Erin in surprise if she is going to the ball. The girl replies that Lady Serena invited her. The gentleman asks if she has already chosen her gentleman. She replies that she is traveling alone. Hearing this, he asks in surprise why this is so. Erin explains that she has no one to ask and she is not going to dance. Kaix asks the lady if she wants him to be her gentleman. The main character heard this was surprised, and then reports that he always said that he was bored at balls. The young master agrees with her, and then claims that this time she's going to the ball, and therefore it is a different matter, and then invites her to admit that she is not going to just bring the cake and deviate from my lady. The Marquis claims that His Highness is right, and then she explains that the matter is different, and if he becomes her gentleman, he will hear a lot of unpleasant things about himself. The Crown Prince is interested in who will hear this. Erin reports that this will tell him to know, and maybe His Highness Raymond. Kaix asks my lady if the opinions of strangers really matter so much. The girl replies that she doesn't care what they say. After all, she will still do what she wants and live the way she wants. The young master says that living a life constantly worrying about what others will think is exhausting, and then asks if she thinks the same. And he wonders if this is why she divorced Raymond. The Crown Prince says that if she wants to know going out with him has one undeniable advantage. The girl wonders what it is like. The young master explains that his brother's concubine hates him terribly, and if he were near Lady Erin, she would not dare even approach her. The Marquis says that he is right, and then reports that he almost persuaded her and invites His Highness to be her gentleman. Kaix turns to the lady and says that he wants to ask her for a favor, and then he explains that it's nothing significant and asks her to go to downtown with him. At this time, Erin understands how she ended up in this place and what favor he was talking about. The lady asks His Highness why he didn't immediately say that he wanted to buy an evening dress. He explains that he was afraid that she would refuse him. The Marquis says that if he thought that she knew anything better about fashion, then she would disappoint him. And then he asks if he wants to choose a dress for the lady and offers to tell him what she likes and what she is like. At this time, the main character thought that she had made a mistake, and perhaps he was in love with a girl, and she was asking such questions. And then she says that, however, this is none of her business. Kaix says that he will tell, and then reveals that she is very different from a typical noblewoman. And for her, he wants the most beautiful gift and wants to please her. And it's not a matter of price, and you can give the most expensive dress in the empire, but if she doesn't like it, then it's worth nothing. Erin thought that according to the description of His Highness, this must be a very noble lady. She wonders who she is, but knows it would be rude if she asked. The Marquis says that if she has such an exquisite taste, and then he asks whether it would be better to give a gift with feeling and special meaning. Kaix turns to the seller and says that he is buying a dress from his store, and then he orders him to immediately bring all the dresses that are on display in the hall. Seeing the boxes, the main character thought that this was a gift the size of the monthly budget of the Imperial Palace, and then asks His Highness if he thinks he will embarrass his lady if he sends her all this. Kaix asks which lady she is talking about. The lady explains that it is for the one for whom he buys everything. The Crown Prince says he didn't think it would all turn into such a misunderstanding, but she understands that if she doesn't say it directly, she will get angry later. At this time, the main character does not understand what he is talking about and asks about it. The young master turns to the lady and asks why she thinks he called her here. Aaron replies that he wants her to help him choose a dress for a certain lady, and then asks if she is telling the truth. And then he claims that he asked her for a favor and asks him to explain it to her since she does not understand anything. Kaix reports that there is nothing significant in this request, and give all these dresses to her so that my lady will choose the best and go to the ball with him. The main character asks in surprise why he wants to give her such a gift. Hearing this, the young master asks a counter question. What does she think? At this time, Aaron thought that at first it was some kind of interest and then simple concern. After all, it seemed like he was helping her since he still had his old affection for her. Kaix reminds the lady that she promised him something, and this promise was that she would accept a dress from him as a gift. Aaron de Brizia is known throughout the Empire as a notorious divorced duchess. The first memories of her are associated with the period when she was 13 years old. Sitting on the summer terrace, the emperor addresses Kaix and tells him to behave himself when he meets Aaron, and then he explains that for the first time he will see the one who will become his brother's wife, and therefore he must remember his reputation and not even think and run away like last time. The Crown Prince remembers that Aaron was already engaged to his brother, and he didn't have the slightest interest in her. The young master sat at the table and thought that he should still run away secretly. The butler addresses His Highness and informs him that the daughter of the Marquis Brizia has arrived. Kaix thought so until the moment she appeared in front of him. The nice lady thanks for the invitation and then reveals that her name is Aaron de Brizia. His Highness says that enough of these dry performances and then invites the girl to sit down at the table. The black-haired boy could not take his eyes off this sweet lady, and he understood that she was his brother's future wife. 6 months later, her brother's engagement to Aaron took place, and the following year their wedding, after which she began to live in the palace. However, Brother Raymond immediately after the wedding brought his mistress to the palace, and everyone mocked and condemned the lonely Duchess. Aaron did not pay attention to the rumors, and quietly did housework in the palace, but at least that's what it seemed like on the surface. Kaix did not understand how long the girl brought by his brother would live in the palace. After all, his wife always looks so busy, and his mistress organizes receptions and balls all day long. When the young gentleman walked along the corridor, he saw that the light was on in the kitchen, and then he began to wonder who was there. After all, he understood that at this time the servants were already leaving, and it was late. When the Crown Prince opened the door, he saw his brother's wife, and then thought it would be better to pretend that he had not seen anything. Suddenly, my lady heard that someone was watching her, and then asked who was there. Kaix realizes he's been spotted, and then walks into the room and asks if she's baking lemon pie. Aaron smiled shyly and said that she suddenly wanted lemon pie in the middle of the night. And then she says that her mother taught her this recipe, and she always said that sweets are a comfort when the soul is heavy. Hearing this, the guy thought that this meant that it was hard for her here, and then he says that he didn't know she could cook. The Marquise reports that as a child, she wanted to become the owner of a pastry shop and open a small establishment somewhere in a quiet place and prepare desserts every day, and this was all her dream. Aaron tells His Highness that she will treat him to a piece of pie, and in return, he asks to keep everything he saw today secret. Kaix asks if the lady thinks this bribe will be enough to keep him quiet. The Marquise assures him that that's enough, and then says that when he tries a piece, he will certainly become her accomplice. At this time, the young master thought about her quiet voice, which seemed to whisper, and the smile addressed only to him, and the warmth that permeated her gaze. All these feelings slowly spread throughout the body to the very heart. And for the first time, he experienced such sensations, such sweet sensations. Kaix wanted Aaron to always keep smiling. It wasn't long since that evening that he and Aaron were eating pie in the kitchen together, and how another event happened. The Crown Prince turns to the Marquise and says that he wants to buy her a dress. She was surprised when she heard this, and then asked why he suddenly started talking about it. The young master recalls the conversation of the ladies who were discussing the outfit in which the Duchess appeared today, and they also said that the dress was boring without a single decoration, and they even thought that she was in mourning. The lady says that Lady Serena recently received another dress as a gift from the Duke, and there were a lot of precious stones, and she looked much more like a duchess. Hearing this, the crown prince understands that he does not want Aaron to be hurt by such words, and then he says that he just wants to give a wedding gift. The marquise assures him that he has already sent a gift. Kaix says it will be a birthday gift. Then the lady says he doesn't have to please her like that. However, the guy asks her to let him give her a gift because he really wants to give her something. Aaron agrees and says that she will be very happy to accept a gift from him, and then he tells him not to be too expensive. Sitting in his room, Kaix reflects on the fact that he doesn't understand anything about women's clothes. And at first, he was going to completely buy the whole studio, but he thinks that she won't like it. And he assumes that there won't be any problems just because of one outfit. The crown prince turns to the maid and tells her to immediately send him the Imperial designer. And at that time, I thought that if he gave a card that was richer and brighter than that girl's, then no one would be able to look down on Aaron anymore. Kaix believes that if she has a hard time because of his brother, he will make the lady smile. And at that time, he believed that this was possible. However, this was a big mistake. On Aaron's birthday, Couturier announced that the ordered outfit was ready, and then he reports that he spared no expense in making the dress. And then he claims that the lady who receives it as a gift will undoubtedly be happy. The couturier claims that this dress contains very delicate and light material of high quality, which is called angelic, and they protected him with the help of special equipment, and along the neckline, they decorated it with precious stones. The designer says that the dress is made in a new style, which is ahead of the metropolitan fashion trend, and in such a dress, any lady will become a style icon. Kaix enthusiastically says that he is great, and then orders him to immediately pack this dress since he wants to give it as a gift. Couturier screaming claims that he has not yet fully listened to her explanation. The crown prince reflects that she will probably like this dress because he really wants Aaron to smile like last time, and then he opens the door and addresses the Duchess. At this time, Aaron was examining the dress, and in surprise, he asks His Highness what happened. Kaix asks the lady if she received the dress as a gift. The Duchess explains that Prince Raymond gave her a gift for her birthday, and he is very busy, so he sent a maid. And then she asks what reason he came for. The crown prince recalls that at the time, he felt as if he had been doused with ice water, and he understood that it was immediately obvious that the maid had chosen this dress. But when I looked at the lady, I realized that she was so happy about this gift, and if he gave her now, then she would not smile at any other gift either. The young master says that he wanted to give her a gift, but he didn't come quite on time because he wanted to be the first to congratulate her on her birthday. And at that time, I thought that you were her heart, not him, but another person. The Duchess thanks him and then states that the gift does not have to be given and suggests not to worry about it. The girl claims that he specially set aside time for her and then invites her to drink tea. The crown prince claims that he just came to congratulate and then says that he has to go. The Duchess suggests seeing each other another time. Kaix thought that this was how his first love ended, which he didn't even have time to talk about after all he understood that he still did not have time for confession, and from the very beginning he should not have fallen in love with her. The young master realizes that he was not the only one who had such thoughts. The emperor asks Kaix what he thinks of his brother's wife, and then he reveals that he heard that he spends a lot of time with Aaron, and she runs the house, so she's very busy, and he tells her not to bother her too much. The young master explains that he just thought she was having a hard time, so he visited her several times. He reports that the lady does not show it, but it seems to him that she is not entirely pleased with the presence of this lady Serena, and then asks Grandpa if he could kick her out of here. The emperor claims that if this solved all the problems he would have done this long ago, but he understands that the problem is his brother. His Majesty explains that marriage in the royal family is not just for love, and so now Raymond is protesting, but he thinks that he will soon calm down, and so he need not worry about Lady Serena. The emperor turns to the boy and says that one cannot love someone who is already married, and then he claims that this is very bad, and also he thinks that the lady knows it too, and so he had to stop thinking about Aaron. Grandfather says that when he becomes an adult, he will meet someone he truly loves, and then he will marry her. Kaix reflects on the fact that he wished so many times that these were just passing feelings, and he understood that if he couldn't love her, then he hoped that if he didn't see her, these feelings would go away. And with such thoughts, he left Ruthin. The servant reports that his brother divorced his wife, because His Majesty was very angry about this and therefore returned to the capital ahead of schedule. Hearing this, Kaix's elite servants prepare the horses as he is returning to the capital now. The young master muses that he will only meet her once and just check how she is doing, and until she needs his help, he will simply be next to her. Aaron asks Mr. Kaix why he gave it to her. At this time, he thought that he could say as much as he wanted, that he wanted to help her and was worried about her. But in reality, he understands that he just wanted to be there. However, the Crown Prince understands that these feelings may become too burdensome for her. And then he asks if by chance she doesn't remember the promise she once made. And he says that she promised that she would accept a dress from him as a gift. Kaix reports what he wanted to give her on her birthday, but didn't have time, and that bothered him. After all, he understands that she just needs a new dress for the ball, and so he thought it was time to give this gift. At this time, the main character remembers that something like this happened, and then he claims that this is too much and he could have given one dress. However, the young master assures that one is not enough, since then another occasion or another ball may appear, and he invites her to just consider it a gift for all 8 years. Aaron says she has nowhere to store it. Kaix heard this saying that if this is a problem, then he can empty the dressing room in his house. The girl was surprised and then said that it was not a problem. The young master believes that she no longer needs to live modestly. The main character understands that he is saying everything correctly. After all, now nothing stops her from doing what she loves, and she no longer needs to pretend to be a wise and caring Duchess. And there is no longer any need to adapt to someone else's opinion. Aaron believes he is right, because she understands that this is not a palace, and therefore she can afford a little luxury. And then she says that she wanted to somehow attend a ball in such an outfit, and she would wear these dresses with gratitude. Kaix heard this and was delighted. And then she says that she needs to choose a dress for tomorrow and asks which one she likes best. Suddenly, he saw Milady laughing and asking why. The girl explains that she just suddenly remembered forgotten sensations. And then he says if he knows that for a long time she could not refuse him anything. Aaron says she loved seeing his satisfied face when she did what he wanted, and that's why she never refused his requests. Hearing this, the young master was surprised and then said that he knew nothing about it. The Marquise explains that it's nothing special because he was so sweet back then, and she always imagined that this is what his younger brother would be like. She claims it's a compliment. Kaix says that for men, the word cute is not a compliment. Aaron says she'll remember it. The Crown Prince asks which dress she will choose, and then she says that the dress they just looked at matches her hair color very well. Brennan Manor Ball Day. The maid reports that she brought the cake that Mrs. Serena ordered. Yeah, suggests Melly to wait, and then he called the head maid. When the maid approached, Melly asked her to take care that the treat was not damaged during transportation, and then he says that this is a very important one. The head maid assures her that everything will be fine, and she need not worry. After lunch, the main character closed her cafe, and then she began to make entries in the expense book. When she finished, she began to slowly prepare for the ball. Aaron examines the dress, and at this time, she thinks that she cannot forget Kaix's face. And then he remembers that even as a child, he loved to spend money, and if he liked something, he immediately bought it. The main character thought about all these dresses given to him and that he would be her partner at the ball. Doesn't mean anything special. Melly tells Marquise that she gave the cake to the Brennan family, and then asks that if she doesn't mind, he will help her prepare. Aaron believes that there is nothing difficult, and she can handle it herself, and then says that now she is not her maid, but an employee of the store. Melly claims that this dress is not easy to put on herself, and then asks what will happen with hair and makeup. The main character explains that she wanted to dress dimly as for an event in the palace, and she wants her to have invisible makeup, a strict hairstyle, and no jewelry. Melly screams and says that under no circumstances should she do this, and then claims that she should wear brighter makeup than usual. After all, she knows that she will be Miss Serena at this ball, and this time she will probably dress up like a peacock, and then asks her to let her help. Aaron agrees with the girl and then asks her for help. Hearing this, Melly says that she will immediately bring makeup tools. A few minutes later, the girl says that in order to maintain the image that matches the outfit, she painted her lips a little brighter than usual. Seeing herself in the mirror, the main character says that it's not her, and then thanks the girl. Melly thinks that she didn't really do anything since her mistress was originally very beautiful. The Marquise looked at her watch and said that the time had already come, and the Duke was about to come, and she realized that she had to go and invited the maid to go and rest. Aaron apologizes for being late, and then asks Mr. Kaix how long he waited. The Marchioness asks the gentleman why he is looking at her like that, and she wonders if she looks strange, then explains that it was Melly who put the makeup on her. Kaix says that she is so beautiful that she blinds his eyes, and then he gives her his hand. The Marquis says she must tell him the same thing, and at that time she thought that Kaix was in unusual clothes, and she didn't understand why she was a little worried. While at the ball, the prince thought that he was bored and already regretted coming. The butler announces that Duke Ruthin and Lady Brizia have arrived, and when Raymond saw the main character, he was surprised. At this time, the aristocrats, when they saw the Marquise, were surprised because she was dressed like that and was not immediately recognizable. Aaron greets the Duke. He replies that he didn't think she would show up at such a social event, and he is also surprised that she has already managed to find a partner. The Marchioness says that he came here with Lady Serena, and then asks what is stopping her from coming with her partner. When the Duke heard this, he was surprised and angry. Kaix claims that the lady said the right thing, and then asks if there is a reason why Lady Erin cannot be here, because the legal divorce has already been finalized, and he no longer has the right to interfere in her life. Serena tells His Highness that it was she who invited Lady Erin, and then he explains that she was dating Lady Katerina, and on the way she met a lady heard about the ball, and she promised to bake a cake for her. The mistress explains that she couldn't just accept the cake, so she sent her an invitation card. She also assures that she did not know that the lady would come with the Archduke. When the main character heard this, she thought that Serena was using this technique again, and she pretends as if she asked for the invitation by promising to make a cake. The lady understands that she has endured so far, but she will not do this anymore. Erin claims that what she says is true, and then explains that she was the first to ask her to make the cake because it would help advertise the cafe. And she had a lot of work, so she couldn't accept other orders, but she couldn't refuse her request. The Marchioness asks Lady Serena if she received her cake, and then he says that she tried hard, and that's why she was a little surprised that he wasn't nominated at the ball. The mistress replies that she ordered the cake to be taken to a separate room so that the guests could enjoy it during the break. Erin reports that because of her there was a long pause between dances, so she will go. The main character thought that she felt good because she didn't think she could say whatever she wanted. This is so convenient, and understands that it was necessary to do this before. The Marquise asks Mr. Kaix why he is smiling. He replies that she just looks pretty. Hearing this, the girl asks if it is noticeable. The young master replies that she behaves much better now than when she lived in the palace. At this time, the girl thought that she had learned to talk like that, and all this thanks to Kaix. The prince turns to the Marchioness and says that he congratulates her on her return to the secular world as Lady Erin. And then he asks if she would do him the honor of being her partner in the first dance. The dazzling light of lamps and bright outfits, the gaze of those around her, and the main character understands that if she were the past her now, she would definitely refuse him, and then agrees and says that she is very pleased with him. And at that time, she understood that she had acted as her heart told her. Erin tells the young master that he is holding up well. Hearing this, he asks if she thought his dancing ability was 0. The Marquise replies that she has never seen him dance before. Kaix explains that there were simply no people he wanted to invite to the dance. Serena noticed that His Highness was looking at this couple and offered to also go into the hall and dance. The Archduke turns to the lady and says that it was an honor for him to dance with her and then kisses her hand. Serena announces that she suggests taking a short break and then reports that light snacks and drinks have been prepared in a separate room, and there is also a cake that Lady Erin herself baked. The Marchioness asks His Highness if he will go with her. Kaix replies that he will wait for her. After all, it seems to him that his brother wants to talk to him, and then he reports that he asked the servants in advance to do what she asked. The Duke's mistress asks the maid why she didn't take out the cake, and then he reminds him that she told him to be thrown outside Dasha. The head maid apologizes and explains that it seems the maid in charge was too busy to forget. Serena turns to Lady Erin and says she's sorry because she should have checked. The Marquis assures that nothing terrible happened. The mistress thanks her for her understanding and then turns to the maid and orders her to open the box quickly. At this time, the main character thought that when the maid opened the box, they would see the cake covered in red liquid, and she assumes that Serena was probably counting on just such a scenario. The Marchioness reveals that she sent it in advance and then asks if she checked it personally. The Duke's mistress heard this and explains that this is the case. And at this time, the head maid speaks for her that Mrs. Serena was busy preparing the score and therefore could not check it personally, and she brought the box with the cake into the hall and no one opened it. Aaron claims that when she sent him away, he was fine, and then he asks if one of the maids made a mistake. The main character says that this is a sample. Hearing this, the Duke's mistress does not understand what she is talking about and asks about it. Aaron reveals that she brought him personally since she invited her and thought she could bring him herself. She also says that she indicated in the note that she would make a sample in advance. The Marquise reports that if you put the cake out in advance, the cream may leak and spoil. And then he explains that at an event in the Imperial Palace, dummies are usually displayed and the guests are served a real cake. The main character says that in such heat, she insisted that the cake be decorated with white chocolate, and therefore thought that she knew about the fake and was too hasty in drawing conclusions. Aaron says that she understands because the lady never organized an Imperial Palace event, and naturally she didn't know that. And then the servant brings the cake into the hall. Gorgeous cake. The main character asks Lady Serena if she doesn't mind then, if she can remove the dummy. And then he claims that such disgusting things should be removed immediately. The aristocrats wondered what this beautiful one tasted like. And when we tried it, we thought that white chocolate went perfectly with the biscuit, and she could easily compare with the confectioner of the Imperial Palace. The lady says that she likes this one better because it is moderately sweet. Aaron asks the Duke's mistress if she liked the taste of the cake. She replies that it's delicious and then thanks Miss Aaron. Heard this, the main character claims that she called her wrong, and then she explains that in person, it's not so important, but at formal events, it's simply rude to call her Miss Aaron. The Marquise claims that living in the Imperial Palace, it is necessary to know such rules of etiquette. Kaix asks the Marquise if everything has been resolved. She replies that everything is fine. The young master says that she looks pleased. Aaron asks how he is, and wonders if he had to listen to unpleasant words from His Majesty. He replies that there is nothing special, and then asks what she will do now, since the point will not end soon. The main character reports that she will return home. The Archduke says that he will see her off. The Marquise thanks His Highness for coming with her today. He replies that there is no need for gratitude, and then he explains that he himself was interested, and the next time she is invited to a ball, she can contact him because he will willingly keep her company. Suddenly, the girl noticed that they were returning along a different road, and this road seemed unfamiliar to her. However, the young master assures that they are going home to his estate. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and he asks why she has such an expression on her face. The gentleman explains that after the ball, it is customary to have a light snack and then return home. Aaron said everything correctly, and at that time, she thought that he might have some other intentions. And she understands that perhaps he is too gentle, and therefore his goodwill leaves some incomprehensible feelings. Kaix reports that he has already ordered the servants to prepare a small treat, and then he says he hopes she likes it. When the main character saw the table set, she was very surprised, and the young master asks if she likes it. The Marquise replies that this is simply wonderful. The Archduke says that he asked to cook a little of everything because he doesn't know what she likes. At this time, the girl remembered that he said that it would be a light dinner, and she understands that it probably wasn't easy to prepare so much. The Marquise reflects on the fact that he is attentive and caring. His Majesty asks the lady if it tastes good to her. After trying a piece, the girl says that the weather is getting hotter, and she thinks that she can include it in the cafe menu. Kaix claims that during this time, she became the real owner of the cafe, and even at this moment, she thinks about him as a young son. Hearing this, the main character thought that Hyunsunim is an address to the older brother's wife, and then he says that he calls her that again. After all, he remembers well that before that he called her Lady Aaron. The Archduke explains that he didn't mean to call her Hyunsunim in that place. The lady says that anyway, thanks to him, she had a lot of fun today, and she thanks him again. The Marquise reports that she has not felt so calm for a long time. At this time, I thought that after marriage she became a duchess, then lived in the Imperial Palace, and got divorced, and also bought a cafe and began to run it. The main character understands that if you think about it like that, then a lot has happened in a short period of time. Kaix looks at the girl, and then asks what she is thinking about. She replies that she just thought that time is very fleeting. After all, just recently, she could not even imagine that I would no longer live in the palace and that she would have her own cafe. Aaron says it would have been better if she had achieved all this a little earlier when her parents were still alive. The young master turns to the lady and says that he has another gift for her, and then he explains that he accidentally saw it in an antique store and immediately thought that he would definitely give it to her when he saw it again. The main character saw a music box, and at that time, she remembered that a familiar melody still sounds in her ears, and she is quite lost. But such a familiar and dear box. And so the lady has no doubt that this is the same thing that her father personally made and gave to her mother. After all, she understands that this is the only music box in the world which they had to sell because of debts. Aaron asks Kaix how he knew about her. He replies that the lady herself told him and even hummed this melody, and then asks if she doesn't remember. Hearing this, the main character thought, couldn't it be, it was at that moment when she baked a lemon cake like that at night, and they ate it together. Kaix asked her what kind of melody it was. Then the Duchess explained to him that this was the Erdanov's song, and her mother often sang to her, and that's why she fell in love with her too. And this song was passed on from mouth to mouth, and therefore everyone has a little their own. The girl explains that her father had a hard time while he was writing down the notes, and then he made a music box and gave it to his mother. The young master asks if he made it himself, and then says that he was curious what the box looked like. Aaron reports that they lost her, and therefore it is no longer possible to see her. The surprised Marquise asks the Archduke if he still remembers this. And at that time, I thought that when her parents died and she got divorced, she believed that she had lost everything, and so she thought that now she would have to start everything over again. The main character understands that on the other hand, the last 9 years after which she had nothing left were seemingly meaningless, and therefore she was somehow sad in her soul. And then she reports that the young master looks like a wizard. Hearing this, Kaix smiled, and she said that he helps her every time it's hard for her. The Crown Prince explains that usually in such cases, they say that the person is like a prince. And then she says that the main thing is that she liked the gift Hyunsunim. The main character tells him to just call her Aaron, and then claims that she is no longer his Hyungsunim. That same day at Brennan Manor, the Crown Prince asks his brother what he is up to, and wonders why he showed up to the ball with Aaron. Kaix replies that he's a little upset to hear that, and then says that she simply asked him to be her date to the ball. Raymond claims that a woman who knows nothing but the palace structure could not ask him for such a thing. Hearing this, Kaix asks what it means he doesn't know, and then he claims that it seems like she seems like that to him. The Crown Prince asks if he wants to say that he knows his wife better than he does. The brother claims that she is Lady Aaron, and it is strange to call the person he divorced his wife. At this time, the prince thought that they had got him, and then he comes into Serena's room and asks if she really invited Aaron. The mistress wants to explain something to him, but he insists that she should not say anything stupid, and he knows that before that, she tried to kill Aaron. And then he says that this is the last time he puts up with her antics. Serena explains that she just thought that if she wasn't there, the emperor would allow them to get married. The prince asks if she hopes this old man will change, and then he says that even when he didn't have a bride, he didn't allow him to marry her, and then asks if she's really that stupid. Raymond talks about how he warns his lover not to touch Aaron again without his permission, and then walks away and leaves her alone. After that, Serena became furious, and she screaming said that she didn't understand who she was, and he himself said that he was tired of Aaron, and then she breaks the furniture in her room. At this time, the chief maid comes into her room and addresses her mistress. She says she shouldn't be so angry because she'll figure something out. Hearing this, the lady asks what she can do if the Duke said not to touch her. The maid asks how about changing the method. Hearing it's Serena, he asks what she means. The maid says that they should just make her leave the capital on her own, and then asks if that's the case. At this time, Kaix put the lady in the carriage and then asks if she will definitely get there alone. She replies that she will get there since he presented an escort to the carriage, and then reports that he is too worried. Aaron thanks the prince for tonight and says that if he comes to the cafe, she will treat him to a delicious dessert. The Archduke replies that he will look forward to their next meeting. The servant tells the lady that they have already arrived, and suddenly, the girl saw an unfamiliar carriage standing in front of her cafe. Raymond gets out of the carriage and says that she has finally returned, and at that time he looked at the carriage with the Reuten seal and thought that it had been in the Kaix estate all this time. Aaron asks the Crown Prince what brings him here. He asks her to give him a little time, and then they go inside the cafe. The Marquise asks what business he has with her, and then she says that it's already late, and she would like to end this conversation as quickly as possible. The Duke says that he heard that an unpleasant situation happened to her at the ball today, and he understands that she was bothered not only today, but for a long time. And so he wants to calm her down and tells her that this won't happen again. Raymond claims that if this happens again, then she should tell him and should not tolerate it. Aaron wonders if this is all he wanted to tell her. And at that time, I thought that she endured all this because of him. And then she says that if that's all, then she asks him to leave because it's late and explains that she has a lot to do at the cafe tomorrow. The Duke asks the girl to wait. And at that time, she thought that he showed up at such a late hour and wanted to tell her something. And he also does not know the rules of decency and does not know how to show concern for others. The main character asks if he needs to show him where the door is and then gets up and leaves. Suddenly, Raymond stops the girl and says that he wants to tell her something. The Marquise orders to let her go before she calls the guards. The Duke lets go of her hand and says that he came to apologize and did not think that she would treat him like that. The main character thought about whether this is the behavior of a person who wants to apologize, and then he asks that he arrived at such a late hour without warning to someone else's house and thought that she would be happy with him. Raymond was surprised when he heard this, and she asks if they are not strangers to each other. The Crown Prince smiled and says that he doesn't even know since the Emperor still mistakes them for spouses, and then explains that he said he wouldn't accept the divorce until they got his permission, and the Emperor even refuses to meet with him on business. The Duke says that she must go with him to the palace, and at that time the main character understood why he came to her, and he's a man who doesn't care how Serena treated her, and she knew he wasn't the type to apologize. Aaron asks why she has to go there at his request. After all, she understands that the legal part has already been completed, and the Emperor did not tell her anything separately, which means he recognized their divorce, and he promised that he would not insist on her return. The main character says that he started the divorce process without his permission, and thereby angering his father. This is his problem. And then he explains that she is not obliged to come to the palace with him. Raymond was surprised to hear this and then asked why she was talking to him like that. He says that the lady agreed too, and then asks if she is trying to take it out on him. The Crown Prince claims that Kaix told him everything, and she was the first to invite him to be her partner at the ball, and then asks that if she makes him angry, she will remain satisfied. The main character heard this and doesn't understand why he suddenly started talking about it. And then she says that he says that as if there is a reason why she could not appear at the ball with Kaix. Hearing this, Raymond slammed his fist on the table and then screamed and asked if it wasn't obvious. He explains that they just recently got divorced and then asks what others will think. Aaron asks if this is being said by a man who even before the wedding brought his mistress to the palace and lived with her. He screams and asks if this is the same thing. The Marquise explains that compared to him, these are completely different things, and she is clean because they are already divorced. The Crown Prince reports that even if he allows her to date other men, it should under no circumstances be Kaix. Hearing this, the main character does not understand why he does not love his brother so much, and it seems to her that there is some other reason, besides the fact that there is a bad relationship between them, and then asks if he's talking about permission. Aaron doesn't think it should be any of his business who she dates, and she hates to hear that. And then she opens the door and invites him to leave. Raymond says that he will come next time. And at this time, the Marquise thought that she was tired, and she needed to quickly go up to the bedroom and take a bath, and then lie down. Suddenly she heard a strange sound in the kitchen, and she became curious. And then she went there. But she didn't see anyone, and thought about what she might have imagined. The next morning, Melly wishes the lady a good day, and she says that if she was very tired yesterday, she can rest there today. Aaron claims she's fine, and has 3 more desserts to make today. And then he asks Melly if she accidentally removed the chocolate roses that were lying by the window. The girl replies that she did not touch them, and then she reports that the window was open in the morning, and she thought that the lady had cleaned the kitchen and rearranged them. The Marquise was surprised, and then explains that she did not open the window. The girl suggests that maybe a cat wandered in and ate the chocolate. However, the lady became interested in whether cats eat chocolate. And at that time, I thought that maybe some wild animals had gotten into the house. A woman who had already visited them came into the cafe and said that they gave her 2 desserts and 1 scone. The main character greeted Miss Fiona and then says that she stopped by to see them again. The lady says that she makes such delicious desserts and she can't refuse them. And then she says that she is already paying too little and will have to sew new outfits. Aaron thanks the lady and tells her to have a seat while she prepares her order. The The lady announces what she wants to take with her today, and then offers to pack them. Melly turns to the mistress and says that she will do the packing today. Miss Fiona says time flies, and the summer festival starts next week. Having heard this, the main character cannot believe that so much time has passed so quickly. The summer festival in the capital began at the very beginning of summer and continued until the onset of the rainy season. During the festival, the night market on the embankment was very popular, where traders from different parts of the empire waited and brought strange goods. Such a holiday was mainly attended by commoners, and therefore after Erin began to live in the palace, she did not have the opportunity to personally visit it. And at that time, she thought that now she didn't need to think about what others would think. Fiona asks the Marchioness if she wants to see the festival. She replies that she would like to watch, but doesn't know if she will have time. The customer asks who she wants to go there with. The Marquise reports that she was simply planning to go there alone. Hearing this, Fiona claims that it is not interesting to watch the holiday alone. And then he asks if she has any male acquaintances who could accompany her. At this time, the main character thought that she loved rumors. Erin remembers Kaix, and that he said that if something interesting happens, then let her be his testament. However, she understands that she cannot invite him, since it is not proper for the Duke to appear at events for commoners. After all, wherever he goes, he will be noticed everywhere. The Marquise thought that if she proposed to Melly, she would like this idea and spend the day off with her boss. Suddenly, a man comes into the cafe and asks if the lady is the owner of the cafe. Erin is interested in how she can help him, and at that time, she noticed that he has a brooch with an embroidered tower and seems to be a low-level official. The man says that he is the manager and is responsible for this area, and therefore came to check the sanitary conditions. The main character was surprised when she heard this, and then reports that she only recently opened a cafe and has already gone through all the authorities. The man reports that he knows because it is a surprise check. Hearing this, the girl thought that if she announced the visit in advance, it would no longer be a sudden check, and then asks if he wants to start in the kitchen. The stranger says that he is interested because the kitchen is outside. Erin explains that she makes drinks inside the cafe, but there is not enough space there to prepare desserts, and she says she doesn't think it's any problem. The Marquise is thinking that if she renovates, she can expand the premises and add space for a kitchen. But since now she does not have free funds for this, and she is dealing with this situation in this way. Erin shows the kitchen and says that she bakes desserts here. And at this time, I thought that it was good that she had cleaned everything up in the morning. The official says it looks good, and my lady asks if she can take the kitchen utensils out of the drawers. However, he replies that there is no need, and then asks if there is anything else there. At this time, the main character thought that maybe he wanted to check the desserts themselves, and then asked if she should offer him to try the dessert. And then she said that she had a cake that would be for sale. Hearing this, the man objects and says that is not what he is talking about. And then she says that she is a slow-witted woman. The official explains that it seems that she does not know everything yet since she opened recently. And then she says that if she wants to do business in the area, she must put all her effort into it. And he tells me about these desserts and about another effort that will immediately become clear to her. Erin heard this and understood why he came to her, because he understands that for a sudden check, he is too indifferent to the state of the cafe itself. And unlike other inspectors, he does not have any documents or a notepad with him. The man reports that he cannot write a good review about her cafe without a sign that will express her good faith, and then asks what she will do if the terrible unsanitary condition of the cafe is indicated. The main character asks in surprise if he demands money from her. The examiner reports that she is finally beginning to understand him, and then he says that money is not bad, and if you don't have cash on you, then jewelry will do. The Marquise reports that she understood what he meant, and then he says that she doesn't have a single penny with which she could bribe him. And then he says that if he didn't come to check the sanitary conditions, then he can leave and write what he wants in the report. The man says, screaming, that if he writes a positive review, her cafe will be closed within a month, and then asks if she agrees to this. At this time, Erin does not understand why he was so angry. And then she reminds him that she said that he can do whatever he wants, and asks if he will have any problems if he doesn't receive a bribe from her. The main character understands that if the inspector writes a negative review, there is a high probability that such a store or cafe will be closed, and he also understands that if you give him a bribe, then a problem will arise because of this, and the closure of the cafe will worry much less because there will be a risk of going to jail, and she understands that no matter how she made this dangerous choice. The Marquise understands that if he had only come for a bribe, then there was no need to stage such a performance, and then she says that she doesn't know who sent her, but asks to leave and not interfere with her work, and don't involve her in your dirty deeds. Hearing this, the man screams and threatens that she will regret it. And at this time, the main character thought that apparently someone paid him, and there was only one person who could arrange this. Aaron remembers that Syria embarrassed herself at the ball, and she just can't calm down. The main character asks Melly how long she has been waiting for her, and she wonders if there was a lot to do while she was gone. The girl assures that everything is fine with her. And then he reports that when the inspector came out, he had a very dissatisfied face, and then asks what happened. The Marquise explained everything to her, and when the girl heard this, she was surprised because she doesn't understand where such people come from. Aaron says that she has heard that sometimes this happens when inspectors take bribes from store owners, but she didn't think that such a thing would come to them. Melly asks if Miss is okay, and then suddenly asks if he really will write a bad review. The main character says that nothing will happen since the owners also have a chance to speak out in their own defense, and then he says that he will need to go to the department and tell them all before they issue an order to close the cafe. The girl suggests that maybe someone bribed them too. She wonders if they can ask people they know for help. And then he says what needs to be said to the Duke because he will quickly solve everything. Aaron believes that she owes too much to Kaix and therefore would not like to ask him for this. Hearing this, Melly suggests turning to Mr. Ines. After all, he understands that he is the head of a knightly order and probably has many acquaintances in management. The girl reports that last time he sent a gift, and besides, he is her friend and will not refuse help. Ines comes in and explains that there was no one behind the counter and he wanted to check if anyone was there, and then asks if they talked about him by chance. Aaron says they haven't seen each other for a long time, and then asks how he chewed and whether he was very busy. The young master explains that he is doing well, and then asks how she is. Ains reports that they say she was at the Brennan estate ball yesterday, and then he says that he accidentally heard about this and therefore was a little worried about her and came to check on her. Hearing this, the main character thought that rumors about yesterday had really spread so quickly, and then he reports that she is fine and nothing special, everything has already been resolved. And he assures that on the contrary, we need to worry about Miss Serena. Ains says he doesn't understand why she's still torturing Aaron. The Marquise replies that she herself does not know why she behaves this way. After all, she finally got Raymond just like she wanted. The lady asks if he came here just to ask this, and then claims that he has always been caring. A childhood friend reports that, to be honest, there was something else he wanted to talk about, and then asks if she would mind going to the summer festival with him. Hearing this, the Marquise was surprised the young master explains that there is no hidden meaning, and that a lot has just happened lately, and he thinks it would be good for her to unwind a little. Ines says that if she doesn't want to, she can refuse. And then he reports that he thought that her appearance with him, on the contrary, could cause unpleasant rumors. Aaron reveals that she is ready to go with him, and then he says that she too has not walked around the evening market for a long time, and if he doesn't mind, then they will go together. The Marchioness understands that bad rumors may spread, as he said, but reports that she has decided not to worry about it anymore. Melly comes into their room and screaming addresses her mistress. And then she says that a letter has just been delivered, and some gentleman wants to invite her to a tea party. Ines asks if Count Florence wrote this letter. The letter says that the gentleman heard that recently her unusual cakes have appeared at several receptions, and he understands that it is so late to send invitations, but it is completely polite. And then he asks if she could grace the tea party that will take place tomorrow at his house with her presence. Aaron says that it seems that the invitation was sent by the Count's wife, and she writes that she has a request for her. The young master asks if she knows her. The Marchioness replies that she does not know her and has seen Count Florence several times since he works in the Imperial Palace, and his wife hardly showed up at events, so she never saw her. And most likely her request is related to the cafe. Ains asks the lady if she wants him to come with her, and then he explains that he just has time tomorrow, and if it's okay, he would like to accompany her. The young master says that he will be able to help her if something unexpected happens. Aaron agrees that he accompanied her. The next day, Aaron came to Florence's estate with Ains. The butler informs them that they are honored to visit, and then suggests that they come as their mistress is waiting for them. Aaron thanked the lady for the invitation. However, the Countess claims that she is grateful to them for honoring them with their presence. and says that as far as he understands, she is having a tea party, but does not see the other guests. The Countess explains that she has a favor to ask of them, and that is why she invited only them. And then she says that tonight she plans to leave for the capital for 2 weeks. That's why I dared to be rude and call them in such a hurry. Aaron reassures her that there is nothing wrong, and then she says that she brought Madeline cookies and cake for her, and she hopes she likes it. The Countess thanks the lady and says that there are rumors about her desserts, and she has long dreamed of trying them. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and the lady said that she bakes very unusual and delicious cakes. The Marquise says there is nothing unusual about them. The Countess says that many in the capital would like to order dessert from her, and naturally she is among them. And then you tell her that in 3 weeks there will be a ball in honor of her birthday, and she would like to order a special dessert. And then you explain that this is her request to her. Aaron asks what she means by special dessert. The lady wonders if by chance she was in the southern lands of the mainland. The lady replies that she was not there and says that the kingdom of Ardion is supposed to be there. And then she reports that she heard that they opened the borders not so long ago because of the war with the Empire. The Countess says that she said everything correctly, and then reports that she only had the opportunity to visit the south coast once. Hearing this, Ines asks the lady if she was in an enemy state. The lady explains that this happened when she was very young and did not understand much. The main character wonders what this special dessert she talks about tasted on these lands. And at that time, I thought that she didn't know what desserts they eat in the south. The Countess reports that a few days ago she purchased jasmine flowers, and she doesn't know whether they make tea from them or put them in food for flavor. Aaron says this is the first time she's seen jasmine flowers, and the woman says that it was acquired in the lands of the south, and she doesn't know whether she is aware or not, but her mother comes from aristocratic families, the kingdom of Ardion. The lady explains that in order to avoid the evil glances of others, she was officially introduced to the society under the name of an aristocrat from another South Island. At this time, the main character thought that Ardion and the Empire had been enemy states for a long time, and there was nothing good in disclosing this fact. Aaron reflects on the fact that when she lived in the Imperial Palace, there were also many ill-wishers there who tried to find fault with the fact that her mother came from a small northern people. The Countess says that she is ashamed to admit, but as a child, she was very worried about her mother's origins. And so when she accidentally learned about a ship illegally sailing to the Southlands, she impulsively decided to sail on it. The lady understands that now such behavior seems shocking, but at that moment, she was very interested to know what her mother's homeland looked like. And the South Sea was very different from the Western Sea, where she often went in her childhood. And there was white sand and warm sun. And for the first time, she saw such a beautiful coast. The woman reports that she was walking along the sand, she became hungry, and went into the first restaurant she came across and ordered food. And she didn't like this foreign food, which was spicy salty and seasoned with 2 fragrant herbs. The Countess says that she tried one dish and still cannot forget the taste of that dessert bee, which had a refreshing and sweet taste of peaches white cream and pieces of clear jelly underneath, and a sweet floral aroma spreading across the palate with every bite. The woman reports that she ordered 3 servings of dessert, but could not understand what kind of ingredients were included in it. And since she did not know the local language, she could not ask the owner. Aaron asks if she's talking about cream by any chance. The lady objects and says that that cream was tastier than cream, and she has the feeling that it is congealed milk and almost completely lacks the characteristic sweet taste. And then he says that it's all in the shape of a tree leaf, and then asks if she knows what kind of dessert it is. The Marquise replies that she cannot even imagine, since the white cream is unknown, and it is unclear what it is made of jelly and floral aroma. The woman says disappointed that's what she thought. And then she says that she accidentally found out about the seasoning that is used for this dessert. The main character asks if this is jasmine. The Countess says that she said the right thing, and then he says that beyond Ardion there is the southern sea, and beyond it stretch foreign lands where this flower grows. And after the end of the war with the South and the resumption of trade, he was brought to the capital. Aaron asks if she can take a closer look, and when I opened it, I felt a refreshing aroma, a rather rich smell, but not at all sharp. And then he says that jasmine has a pleasant aroma. The Countess says that in the South, tea is also made from these flowers. Hearing this, the main character thought that flower tea looked good and thought about serving it in her cafe. The lady reports that she asked the chef to make a similar dessert, but no one succeeded, and they tried to preserve the aroma. but the taste was not very good, and the desired taste was missing, and then asks if the lady can make the dessert while preserving the taste and smell. Erin replies that she doesn't even know because the scent is really nice, and she understands that such a strong flavor will not go well with cake or morphine, and it would be nice to make a light cream or pudding similar to what the Countess tried. Ains, she has at least some information about the white cream. The Countess replies that she tried different types used in preparing desserts, but they all differed in taste from what was needed. The young master says that it is likely that it consists of ingredients that are difficult to obtain in the Empire. The woman tells him that if the results aren't exactly the same, it's okay, and then asks if she can make a dessert that will retain that flavor. Hearing this, the main character thought that she had never tried to invent a new dessert, and therefore was a little nervous. But he understands that on the other hand, it looks quite interesting. Erin agrees and says that she will do her best and try to fulfill her order. The Countess thanks the lady for listening to her and her difficult request, and then she says that she will thank her generously and can name any amount. The Marquise objects and says that it's not worth it, but suddenly I remember that Count Florence works in the department. Erin reports that if she can make the dessert she is looking for, and then asks if it would be possible to make a request to her husband. The lady asks her childhood friend if he has seen similar flowers in the south. He replies that he doesn't remember such a thing, and then he apologizes for not being able to help her. However, the girl says that she doesn't know this either, even though she is the owner of the cafe. Ons, he will help her with something else. The lady asks that he could sometimes stop by the cafe and conduct a tasting of her desserts. The young master replies that he will be happy to comply with this request, and then he says that he will come every day after work. Having heard this girl, she says that it's enough to just come in sometimes. And at that time, I thought that he was quite handsome, and he was not thinking about marriage. Erin reflects that Ains probably receives a lot of good offers. The Marquise reports that she wanted to go to Emery's store, and then she explains that she needs to ask if she can buy more jasmine flowers because developing a new recipe requires a lot of training. Suddenly, the knight hugs the girl and says that it seems to him that someone is watching them. Having heard this, the main character understands that now they are on a rather crowded street, and she does not understand who could be following them, and then quietly asks when the surveillance began on them. Ains reports that from the moment they got out of the carriage, and at first he thought it seemed to him, but now he is sure that they are being watched. The lady asks how many there are. He replies that there are about 2, and judging by their movements, they are not ordinary people, but rather trained knights. The main character thought that these could be people from Serena. However, she realizes that she does not have enough power to involve the knights, and she doesn't think Prince Raymond would risk his reputation again. The young master says that he doesn't think they intend to harm them in any way, and then asks the lady what they will do. The Marquise suggests leaving everything as it is, and then says that if they are just watching them, there is no need to run away from them since they will not be able to do anything in broad daylight, and then she says that she has one guess. Hearing this, the gentleman wonders what she is talking about and asks about it. However, the girl replies that it's nothing serious, and then suggests moving on. Erin's store told her that the jasmine leaves were sold out, and the seller claims that recently there has been a great demand for goods brought from the south. The lady asks when the next delivery is expected. He replies that he thinks it will take more than a month. Hearing this, the girl thought that the Countess's birthday was in 3 months. Ains suggests the lady look elsewhere. Erin says that they need to go to the herbal shop on Boyard Street, and at this time, she realizes that she is in an alley that is not entirely safe, but she understands that it is still light, and Ains is nearby. Suddenly, Erin saw Kaix and was surprised. The young master says that they met her by chance in such a place. Hearing this, the lady does not understand what could bring the Archduke to such a shop. Ains greeted His Highness, and the prince asks if he is the head of the Loughlin order, and then he says that he is pleased to meet you, and he has long wanted to meet him. The knight claims that a month ago he already saw him in the Imperial Palace. Kaix explains that he often forgets those who are not particularly important to him. At this time, the main character thought that there was some kind of tense atmosphere, and she wondered if they were on bad terms. Kaix turns to Erin and asks what she is doing here. He wonders if she came to get the ingredients. The lady explains that she was already going to another shop, and what she needed was not here. Kaix says that he is seeing her off because he wanted to talk to her about something important. And he explains that this is not a good place to talk and asks if they can talk on the way. Erin apologizes and says that she already has a date today, and then asks if he could come to the cafe in the evening. Ines heard this reports that he is fine and then invites her to go. However, the girl does not understand what he is talking about, and he explains that he will visit her tomorrow. The main character asks His Highness if he accidentally sent knights to today to keep an eye on her. Hearing this, the young master objects and says that it is not him. However, the girl asks how he knew that she was in the shop. Kaix said the servants. And the girl wonders how the servants knew about this. The young master reports that they are protecting her. Hearing this, Aaron claims that he is still following her. However, the young master objects and explains that he was sent to guard her, and this is not surveillance. Kaix apologizes and then explains that he was just worried and remembers that last time she was also in danger. The girl thanks him for his concern and then says that Ines was with her today. Hearing this, the young master says that he did not know that Commander Lefnin was such a capable knight and he would have to be tested in a duel somehow. Aaron doesn't understand why he suddenly became so unhappy, and then asks what important matter he wanted to talk about. Kaix asks if her brother happened to come to her cafe. She replies that he came in the evening after the ball, and then asks how he knew about it. And she wondered if he was really watching her there too. The prince wonders what they were talking about. The lady explains that they did not discuss anything special, and he asked to go with him to the palace and ask the emperor for permission to divorce, but she refused. The archduke asks if this is all. He also said nothing more about being interested. The main character replies that he immediately left and then asks about it again whether he wanted to talk to her. Kaix explains that there is still something very important, and then he says that next week they will open a night market and asks if she would like to go there together. Hearing this, the main character asks if he had any important conversation. However, the young master claims that this is very important. The lady explains that she has already agreed to go to the night market with someone else. Kaix says that he already guesses, and this gentleman will be Lefnin, and he believes that she will be safe with him. The prince says that he turns out to be with the head of the order. There is nothing to do that he can afford to go to the market. I heard this girl think that she had the feeling that he was speaking slightly mockingly. When they arrived at the store, the salesman asked what she was looking for. The lady wonders if they happen to have jasmine flowers. He replies that they usually sell it, but recently everything was sold out, and now there is nothing left. The man shows all the herbs that were brought from the southern lands, and then they explain that he didn't order many because he thought they would only be used to make perfume, and that the perfume store actually bought them. Aaron says she's sorry and knows there's nothing she can do, and she thought that she could barely find a place where they sell jasmine, and they didn't have it in stock here. And that's why the night market remains. And if it's not there, it will be difficult to prepare dessert. Suddenly, the girl saw a bottle with strange petals, and she became interested in it. After all, this is the first time she has seen such dark leaves. When Aaron opened the jar, she smelled a strange smell and thought it was agglutination, but he understands that the picture is too clear for agglutinations, and then she asks the seller what it is. The man explains that these are leaves that were brought from the Black Forest, and he liked the smell, and so he put them up for sale, but no one buys them. At this time, the main character thought that she had never been to the northern lands, and she was a little sorry to just leave, and then she pulled out coins and said that she would buy them. Kaix says that the lady did it quickly, and then asks if she came to this shop for this. Aaron replies that she hasn't found what she needs, but the flowers can only be purchased abroad and look like they've run out of stock. The prince asks why she needed such rare flowers. The girl replies that to make a new recipe, she needs more jasmine flowers, but it is impossible to buy them anywhere, and then they explain what she needs to bake for the countess. The main character explains what she would like to make, but has not yet been able to figure out what kind of dessert it is, and she does not have any recipe. And then she turns to Kaix and asks if she could make a request to him. When they arrived at the estate, the young master said that she could use this passage to quietly enter inside and then leave. At this time, Aaron thinks that she could get permission to enter, but this also takes time, and she understands that only members of the Imperial family can freely enter the Imperial library. Entering the middle, the girl was surprised because she saw a lot of books, and she believes that books related to Ardeon most likely because the southern lands there were the enemy of the Empire for a long time, and therefore there were restrictions on the spread of this culture. Aaron thinks I don't need a book about Southland cooking and recipes because she thinks she might be able to find some dessert clues there. But after reading several books, she did not find either a recipe or even the slightest useful information. The lady is a little disappointed, as she had hoped that she could at least figure out a way to use jasmine. And at this time, she realizes that she has no time at all. Well, suddenly, she saw a book that talks about the people of Erden and about desserts from different regions. Kaix asks the lady what she is looking for there. She replies that she is looking for books about cuisine or food traditions of the southern lands, and she is trying to find the recipe for the dessert that the Countess talked about, but understands that it is still to no avail. The young master asks what this dessert looked like, and then he reports that he also tried a lot of the local cuisine when he was in those parts. Hearing this, the Marquise was surprised since this is a hostile state, and she understands that citizens of the Empire are prohibited from traveling there and then asks how he ended up there. Kaix answers that in a similar way. As the Countess hearing this, the lady asks if he really went there secretly. The young master explains that no one revealed his identity and no problems arose. And at that time, I thought that if he told her even more, she might quarrel with him. Aaron asks if something happened to him. There, he says that he understands that he behaved too frivolously. The Marquise wonders why he is smiling, and then explains that she is now talking to him seriously. The guy explains that he likes that she worries about him, and then he says that from now on, he will return safe and sound even if he goes to a dangerous place. Hearing this, the main character objects and says it is best not to go to dangerous places. Kaix states that they strayed from the main conversation and then asks what that dessert looked like. Aaron explains that it was a white cream on a dish of leaves, and there was something inside that looked like jelly and smelled like jasmine. Then she asks if he knows. The young master says that it seems to him that he tried this at the bazaar of the Southport. Hearing this, the Marquise thought that this was exactly what the Countess was talking about. The prince says it was not cream. Well, suddenly, they heard that someone had come to the library, and the young lady offered to check it out. Kaix grabs the girl's hand, and then they hide in the corner. The lady doesn't understand what's going on and asks about it. He explains that if they go out now, they will meet an unpleasant person. The crown prince says that there is no need to worry because no one will come here. And at that time, the main character realized that this voice belonged to Raymond. His Majesty turns to the man and says that this is different from what he promised him then, and then he asks if he didn't promise that he would bring him this thing. The stranger replies that what he says is true, and then explains that on the condition that he follows their agreement. Raymond asks if he wants to break the contract with him. The man says that since he hasn't done his part, nothing can be done, and then asks if he's wrong. And then he claims that it was he who failed the task, and therefore he had no choice. The crown prince says that's enough of this talk, and then claims that they were never together anyway. And he believes that if he wanted to break the contract, he would not have come here in person. The man says this is true, and they can't just give up on someone as precious as him. At this time, the main character thought that Raymond had secretly made a deal with someone, and nothing was clear because they were not talking about the main thing. And then she turns to Kaix and says that they suddenly decided to hide, and that's why the situation has become even stranger. And now they can't get out. The young master explains that apparently his brother is engaged in an important conversation, and it would be rude to interrupt him. However, he understands that eavesdropping on other people's conversations is also impolite. And then he says that it looks like they are leaving. Aaron thought that everything happened so unexpectedly that she didn't even pay attention, and she and Kaix were so close that his breath tickled her ears. When they left, the Marquise pushes the gentleman away and says that now he can let her go. And then she quickly leaves. Suddenly, she caught the rack with her dress, and it almost fell on her if Kaix had not stopped him in time. Raymond heard some strange sound, and then decided to check it out and saw them, and he wondered what they were doing there. The crown prince states that he won't stand for this, and then asks if they know what this place is. Aaron tells him to wait, then tells him it's a misunderstanding. Hearing this, Raymond asks what he saw then, and he wonders how she dared back in the Imperial palace. At this time, the main character thought that as before, he did not want to listen to her, and then he asks who brought his mistress to the palace and lived with her. The crown prince says that she is again at her best, and then he explains that having a mistress is quite common among aristocrats or members of the imperial family, and he wonders how much longer she will make noise around this topic. And then he claims that he will stop acting like a little child. Hearing this, Aaron thought that she wondered if for 9 years he had ever perceived her as a person on the same level as him. And then he says that it looks like he misunderstood something, and she claims that she is not his property. Not only now, but also before when they were spouses. The Marquise invites the crown prince not to try to control her behavior and interfere in other people's personal lives. Hearing this, Raymond became very angry, and then he wanted to say something to the girl. At this time, Kaix stands in front of the lady and says that he may be his big brother, but he will not allow him to insult Aaron. At this time, the crown prince smiled and then asked how dare he open his mouth in front of him. Kaix asks if he will run to his grandfather and report everything to him, and then he claims that this is not beneficial for him since he will have to tell about the secret conversation in the Forbidden Zone. Hearing this, the main character was surprised because she did not understand what they were talking about. Raymond says there's no point in arguing with him, then turns around and walks away. Aaron asks the young master what he just said to his brother Kaix doesn't understand what exactly she's talking about. The girl asks, since when this is a restricted area. The prince explains that recently, and then he says that now even members of the Imperial family can only enter with permission. Hearing this, the Marquise says that she should have said this right away. Kaix claims that it was her request, and he thought they could quietly go in and quickly find the information they needed. And then she asks for forgiveness for having to listen to all this from her brother. However, the girl assures that it is not his fault, and he is not to blame for anything. Aaron asks the young master who was with Duke Raymond. The young master asks the lady if she would be sad if her brother suddenly died. Hearing this, she was surprised and asked what he was talking about. The prince explains that simply if we assume such a situation, that something will suddenly happen to his brother. At this time, the main character thought that the war with the southern lands was over and the political situation had stabilized, and she did not understand why he suddenly started talking about it. And she wondered if he really had plans for the throne, since it seemed to her that Kaix was not interested in power. Aaron wondered if she would be sad if Raymond suddenly died. And then she replies that she thinks she will be happy, and she doesn't have the slightest interest in the Duke's life, and explains that it's even a pity to waste time on such conversations. The main character turns to the young master and says that she does not want him to put himself in danger, and she also doesn't want anything to interfere with her business since this is her long-time dream, and she opened a cafe quite recently. Kaix claims that he will protect her so that nothing happens to her and her dream. Hearing this, the main character realized that he had misunderstood because she meant that he should not get involved in adventures, but he answered like that. Aaron invites the prince to tell him about the dessert he tried in the southern lands, and then reminds him that they were just interrupted there. Kaix explains that it was not cream, and that it is a fruit that grows in overseas countries. Hearing this, the lady was surprised, because she understands that he cannot be found in the Empire, and if you order it, it will probably get spoiled on a ship that takes more than a month. The young master calms the girl down, and tells her not to worry, and then explains that these fruits can be transported over long distances. Aaron asks if he happens to know the name of this fruit. The prince replies that he does not know the name, but he thinks that if he sees it, he will immediately recognize it, and then asks if she wants to go to the night market during the summer festival. The Marquise asks if he really doesn't know its name. Kaix wonders if she doubts his words, and then he explains that he tried it by accident and only remembered it by sight. The main character says that she is going with him to the night market. Hearing this, the guy asks what about the head of Lefnin. The Marquise replies that she can go with him another day, and then says that she cannot break her promise. Aaron says they better clean up the mess quickly and leave, and at that time, she thought that she needed to find another way to get jasmine flowers. Suddenly, the girl reports that she has found a man who has a lot of jasmine, and he believes that this is the emperor because he loves tea and is always looking for some unusual herbs. The lady says that she heard that in the south they make tea from jasmine, and the emperor was just an artisan and probably brought a lot of different teas with him. The Marquise thinks that she should write to His Majesty's senior servant and get some tea from him paying for it. Kaix says that he will deliver the letter because he thinks it will be faster. Hearing this, the girl was surprised, and then said that she was uncomfortable asking him for such a thing. The prince says that it is not difficult for him since he is always happy to help her. And then it is said that if something happens to her, she can tell him about it first. The young master looked at the lady and then asked what was wrong with her. She explains that she suddenly remembered their teenage years, and then he says that he can't even believe that they have become so grown up. Kaix says that he always wanted to become such a person, and then says that he is pleased to take care of her. On the day off, the main character lying in bed in the morning thought that she had not woken up so late for a long time. Aaron thinks that now she just has to wait. The chief servant's reply regarding jasmine flowers. When the girl comes to the kitchen, she thinks that she can do the dessert that the countess asked her to make, and then he remembers that Kaix said that there was not cream inside, but fruit. Aaron thinks we should come up with a jasmine-scented dessert. However, he understands that in order to preserve the floral scent, a dessert in the form of a cake will not work, and we need some simpler regular dessert. The girl thinks that it would probably be better to add some light milk blancmange or pudding with whipped cream, and then he decides to start with pudding for the first time. Aaron boils the milk first and then adds the jasmine flowers. Next sugar cream and mix it all well, and then the egg yolk and mix it again. And then he puts it in the preheated oven. The main character cools the finished pudding for an hour, and then he thinks that he should try what happened. Suddenly, the lady heard a voice asking if there was anyone in the house. And when she opened the door, she saw a girl who said that she had brought the fruit that she ordered. Aaron recognized this girl who came with her sister to get the cake. And then she says that they haven't seen each other for a long time and asks if she does delivery. The little girl explains that this is her job and she likes it. The lady invites her to enter the middle and tells her that she will pay her. When the girl walked inside, she immediately saw the pudding and asked if she was selling it. Aaron replies that she baked it for the first time as a test. The little girl says that this is the first time she has seen pudding being made themselves. Hearing this, the main character thought that pudding is often prepared at home, and she said that this was the first time she had seen it, and therefore, she assumes that she may have lost her parents in early childhood since she works at such a young age. The main character asks if she likes pudding and would like to try it. The little girl replies that she did not take any money with her today. Aaron says she doesn't have to pay, and then explains that she's in the process of developing a new menu, and if she tries it and tells her what she thinks, it will help her a lot. The girl was surprised when she heard this, and then asked if she could really try it. The Marquise says that she will bring her a clean spoon, and then she gives her the pudding and says that she poured caramel syrup on top. The lady decided to try it too, and realized that it smelled a little like jasmine. And since there is cream and milk, the taste is too simple. And at that time, she thought that this pudding did not work out, and she wondered what was wrong with the caramel, and then asked the girl how she tasted it. The little lady replies that it is very tasty since the sweet caramel and delicate pudding go together very well, and she thinks everyone will like this dessert. When the main character heard this, she thought that she hadn't said anything about the floral aroma and was probably overwhelmed by the strong smell of caramel, and she thought that she could try fruit instead of cream. Aaron asks the girl if she has any fruit from the southern lands, and then he says that dried fruits and nuts are also suitable. The girl replies that there were fruits that she had never seen, but no one bought them, and most likely they were already thrown away. The Marquise asks if they were white. The little lady replies that they are brown, and she suggests that they probably don't taste good. At this time, the main character thought that she knew that they could not be obtained so easily. When the little girl left, the Marquise thought that she needed to take up dessert again. Suddenly, the main character heard that Ines was addressing her, and she remembered that he was supposed to come in today. The girl is interested in what the guy is holding in his hands. He replies that it's a quick snack because he thought she hadn't had lunch yet. At this time, the main character thought that she really hadn't eaten anything since the morning because she was busy with desserts. Aaron encourages the guy to come in quickly and then touches him. But suddenly, she saw the same dark forest that she saw in the shop. And then she asks, "What's wrong with him?" And she wonders what's hurting him. Ines tells Aaron to leave him, and then he writhes in pain and falls to the floor. At this time, the girl does not understand what is happening. Suddenly, the main character saw that the guy was bleeding on his shoulder, and at that time, I thought that maybe the poison of the monsters caused the attack, and she understands that his condition has become worse than it was before, because his wound became bigger than it was. The girl does not understand why this disease is progressing so quickly. After all, he understands that everything was fine, and so suddenly everything got worse. The Marquise understands that this is not the time to guess, and first she needs to hide him. And then she closes the door because she understands that if they find out that he is poisoned with the poison of monsters, then the people from the temple may capture him and sentence him to execution. Suddenly, the poison hugged the girl's hand and then slowly disappeared. At this time, the main character does not understand what happened, and she thinks that the poison in Ines's body has also disappeared. Aaron saw something near the wound that reminded her of a black haze, and she thought it was because of the light. The lady reports that she just saw a black forest, and then she remembers that she had exactly the same vision in the spice shop, and she doesn't understand why it constantly arises, and he suggests that the poison of the monsters is somehow connected with the northern forest. At this time, the main character remembered that she was told that the ingredients for the poison were brought from the north, and she suggests that perhaps these leaves that she bought could perhaps help Eins. Aaron thinks she's not sure, but knows she has no other choice. And when she took the leaves, she didn't understand how she needed to use them. The lady took the milk she had left from the pudding and then boiled the leaves with it. The Marquise saw that Eins's condition had worsened, and she understands that if left like this, he could die. And then she invites him to drink the mixture that she prepared. The girl understands that he drank, but she did not see any reaction, and she can't believe it didn't work. And at this time, she really wanted him to open his eyes. Suddenly, the guy's wounds disappeared, and she doesn't understand how this happened because she heard that there is no cure for the poison of monsters. And I thought that black leaves might be effective. Aaron saw a pattern where the wound was, and she understands that when she touches him, it doesn't hurt him, and no visions arise. The girl thought that it was good that they had no side effects on Ains. However, she doesn't understand why it appeared. At this time, the emperor asks who left the flowers. The servant replies that Prince Kaix arrived this morning. His Highness wonders if Raymond came. And at that time, I realized from the reaction that I had not come yet. And he says that the son doesn't even remember the day of his own father's death. And then he invites the priest to tell everything honestly about his grandson. The emperor asks if he thinks Raymond still has any special qualities. The man reports that nothing has changed, and then asks what's wrong with Miss Erin. His Majesty explains that his grandson kicked her out, and then he explains that he tried to apologize to her in any way, but he doesn't want to listen to him. The emperor says that Raymond believes that he is torturing him, and then he says that it would be nice to tell him everything, but he cannot do this until the qualities of an heir appear in him. Suddenly, His Majesty saw the table set, and then he asked the priest what it was. At this time, Serena greets the head of the empire, and the priest explains that he knows nothing about it. The lady says that she heard that he skipped a meal to come to their temple, so she prepared a treat, and then she claims that her skills are not enough, but asks him to taste the dishes prepared with all her soul. The emperor turns to the priest and says that this is a sacred place, and then asks how it was possible to let the wicked maiden hear. It was the lady who thought that he was talking about her, and she doesn't understand whether her relationship with Raymond is desecrating her. Serena turns to His Majesty and says that he has not liked her for a long time, and then asks why she would like to know the reason. The lady asks if all this is because of her low birth, and then claims that for the past 7 years, she has tried her best to serve Prince Raymond. Serena says that as soon as he gives his consent, she, like Miss Erin, and even better than her will, try to fulfill her duties and take care of palace affairs. Hearing this, the emperor was surprised and then asked what nonsense she was saying. His Majesty says that it is not her origin nor her abilities that matter, and then she claims that she grew up in prosperity, but she herself wanted to become Raymond's mistress. And the whole world knows this fact, and he does not understand how such a woman can be made an empress. Serena claims that he is saying that she cannot become his wife because she has been by his side all these years. The emperor tells the servant to take her away and not let her come here. Hearing this, the lady turns to His Majesty and screaming says that he did not even give her a chance. And then she says that she has loved Prince Raymond since childhood and does not understand why he chose her for me. The emperor claims that she could not claim this place from the very beginning, and then he suggests leaving this idea. When Serena was taken away, His Majesty thought that she was an annoying girl and did not understand how his grandson could live with her. The emperor believes that from childhood he raised him as the future heir to the throne, but he constantly does nothing but disappoint him, and this applies to his right heritage and his marriage. Eats asks what Prince Raymond will do without Miss Erin. The emperor claims that the Duchess must be returned. His Majesty says that Raymond said that he would not return to the palace, but understands that he needs Erin. At this time, Eins is thinking about the fact that he needs to run away quickly, because he understands that if it catches him, he may die. The guy understands that he needs to ask for help, but they don't understand from whom, and he reflects on the fact that in the end, he will only cause trouble. Eins opened his eyes and saw Erin. The Marquise says, "Thank God he woke up." The young master asks in surprise where he is. The main character explains that after he lost consciousness, she and Melly dragged him to her room, and then it is reported that no one found out about the wound, and therefore he need not worry, and she washed his shirt because it was dirty. Hearing this, Eins says that he is causing her a lot of trouble, and then he claims that he is in her debt again. Erin says nothing bad happened, and then she says that she thought he was having a nightmare, so she tried to wake him up. The main character asks how he is feeling, and then asks how his wound is. The guy reports that he doesn't feel anything right now. And when he opened his shirt, he saw that the wound had disappeared and only the mark remained. Aaron says it's a long time to explain, and then he says that she gave him black leaves, after which his wound went away, and a sign formed in its place. The girl wonders why his early conditions suddenly worsened. Ainz explains that he doesn't know, but he definitely remembers that it was healing, and then it is reported that there are no more, but even he had never heard of such a sign. The main character asks the guy if he will stay with her for a while, and then it is reported that she is worried because she understands that suddenly he may have an attack, and so she thinks it would be better if he stayed with her until they were sure that he really was okay. The Marquise reports that she has a spare room, and it is a little small, but there should be no inconvenience. Aaron says she's worried because she gave him the leaves, and she thinks that maybe it's just them. Ainz takes the girl by the hand and then asks why she thinks that way. He says that without her help, the poison would have already killed him, and on the contrary, he is already very grateful. The young master says that if his presence makes her feel better, he will stay, and then he suggests not to beat yourself up like that. The guy reports that the mark on the body does not cause any discomfort, and he would even say that some pleasant sensations appeared. Aaron reveals that the pharmacist who sold her the medicine brought it from up north, and she believes that what I have happened may be connected to the Black Forest, and the leaves may be part of the medicine, and she will find a pharmacist and ask him about it. Ainz says that he is sure that her life will be calmer if she finds out the truth about the black leaves. Hearing this, the main character thought that Ainz was probably scared too, but he cared about her first. The guy says that he will go home for a while, and the girl asks why. Ainz explains that he will order the servants to restore the house with the greenhouse, since its presence will not arouse suspicion. The Marquise reports that she understands, and then thanks him for thinking about such things. The young master claims that compared to what she did for him, this is mere trifle. And then he says that he will be back soon, and the girl wished him a happy journey. And at that time, I thought that she hoped nothing would happen. Aaron thought that unfortunately she could not tell him about something extremely suspicious, that when the poison touched her hand, it immediately disappeared without a trace. She realizes that she did not eat the black leaves or take any other drugs, and she doesn't understand why the poison didn't work on her then. The main character understands that unlike Ainz, she does not have any sign on her body, and she understands that this thought is unfounded. And at that time, I thought that there might be a reason for the healing in her. The next day, the girl thought that she was so worried about Ainz, but she understands that today everything is fine because he really felt better, and so she can return to trading. When she entered the cafe, she doesn't understand where everyone went. Suddenly, she saw a note that Ainz had written, and he indicated that he had gone to Boyard Street and would return soon. At this time, the main character thought that he had gone to look for a pharmacist, and Melly is apparently already preparing the drinks. And she understands that in this case, it's time for her to deal with desserts. Aaron thought that she would probably start with scones and strawberry cream cake, and then she remembered that she had chestnut paste left over from last time, and she decided to make Mont Blanc out of it. And while the almond pastry base was baking in the oven, she mixed the whipped cream with the chestnut paste and made the filling. The girl understands that it is much easier to work with ready-made ingredients, and she would spend a long time making the pasta herself. She filled the finished molds with cream, and Mont Blanc was red. The man reports that nothing has changed, and then asks what's wrong with Miss Aaron. His Majesty explains that his grandson kicked her out, and then he explains that he tried to apologize to her in any way, but he doesn't want to listen to him. The Emperor says that Raymond believes that he is torturing him, and then he says that it would be nice to tell him everything, but he cannot do this until the qualities of an heir appear in him. Suddenly, His Majesty saw the table set, and then he asked the priest what it was. At this time, Serena greets the head of the empire, and the priest explains that he knows nothing about it. The lady says that she heard that he skipped a meal to come to their temple, so she prepared a treat, and then she claims that her skills are not enough, but asks him to taste the dishes prepared with all her soul. The emperor turns to the priest and says that this is a sacred place, and then asks how it was possible to let the wicked maiden hear. It was the lady who thought that he was talking about her, and she doesn't understand whether her relationship with Raymond is desecrating her. Serena turns to His Majesty and says that he has not liked her for a long time, and then asks why she would like to know the reason. The lady asks if all this is because of her low birth, and then claims that for the past 7 years, she has tried her best to serve Prince Raymond. Serena says that as soon as he gives his consent, she, like Miss Erin, and even better than her will, try to fulfill her duties and take care of palace affairs. Hearing this, the emperor was surprised and then asked what nonsense she was saying. His Majesty says that it is not her origin nor her abilities that matter, and then she claims that she grew up in prosperity, but she herself wanted to become Raymond's mistress. And the whole world knows this fact, and he does not understand how such a woman can be made an empress. Serena claims that he is saying that she cannot become his wife because she has been by his side all these years. The emperor tells the servant to take her away and not let her come here. Hearing this, the lady turns to His Majesty and screaming says that he did not even give her a chance. And then she says that she has loved Prince Raymond since childhood and does not understand why he chose her for me. The emperor claims that she could not claim this place from the very beginning, and then he suggests leaving this idea. When Serena was taken away, His Majesty thought that she was an annoying girl and did not understand how his grandson could live with her. The emperor believes that from childhood he raised him as the future heir to the throne, but he constantly does nothing but disappoint him, and this applies to his right heritage and his marriage. Eads asks what Prince Raymond will do without Miss Erin. The emperor claims that the Duchess must be returned. His Majesty says that Raymond said that he would not return to the palace, but understands that he needs Erin. At this time, Ainz is thinking about the fact that he needs to run away quickly, because he understands that if it catches him, he may die. The guy understands that he needs to ask for help, but they don't understand from whom, and he reflects on the fact that in the end, he will only cause trouble. Ainz opened his eyes and saw Erin. The Marquise says, "Thank God he woke up." The young master asks in surprise where he is. The main character explains that after he lost consciousness, she and Melly dragged him to her room, and then it is reported that no one found out about the wound, and therefore he need not worry, and she washed his shirt because it was dirty. Hearing this, Ainz says that he is causing her a lot of trouble, and then he claims that he is in her debt again. Erin says nothing bad happened, and then she says that she thought he was having a nightmare, so she tried to wake him up. The main character asks how he is feeling and then asks how his wound is. The guy reports that he doesn't feel anything right now, and when he opened his shirt, he saw that the wound had disappeared and only the mark remained. Erin says it's a long time to explain, and then he says that she gave him black leaves, after which his wound went away and a sign formed in its place. The girl wonders why his early conditions suddenly worsened. Ainz explains that he doesn't know, but he definitely remembers that it was healing, and then it is reported that there are no more, but even he had never heard of such a sign. The main character asks the guy if he will stay with her for a while, and then it is reported that she is worried because she understands that suddenly he may have an attack, and so she thinks it would be better if he stayed with her until they were sure that he really was okay. The Marquise reports that she has a spare room, and it is a little small, but there should be no inconvenience. Erin says she's worried because she gave him the leaves, and she thinks that maybe it's just them. Ainz takes the girl by the hand and then asks why she thinks that way. He says that without her help, the poison would have already killed him, and on the contrary, he is already very grateful. The young master says that if his presence makes her feel better, he will stay, and then he suggests not to beat yourself up like that. The guy reports that the mark on the body does not cause any discomfort, and he would even say that some pleasant sensations appeared. Erin reveals that the pharmacist who sold her the medicine brought it from up north, and she believes that what I have happened may be connected to the Black Forest, and the leaves may be part of the medicine, and she will find a pharmacist and ask him about it. Ainz says that he is sure that her life will be calmer if she finds out the truth about the black leaves. Hearing this, the main character thought that Ainz was probably scared too, but he cared about her first. The guy says that he will go home for a while, and the girl asks why. Ainz explains that he will order the servants to restore the house with the greenhouse, since its presence will not arouse suspicion. The Marquise reports that she understands, and then thanks him for thinking about such things. The young master claims that compared to what she did for him, this is mere trifle. And then he says that he will be back soon, and the girl wished him a happy journey. And at that time, I thought that she hoped nothing would happen. Erin thought that unfortunately she could not tell him about something extremely suspicious, that when the poison touched her hand, it immediately disappeared without a trace. She realizes that she did not eat the black leaves or take any other drugs, and she doesn't understand why the poison didn't work on her then. The main character understands that unlike Ainz, she does not have any sign on her body, and she understands that this thought is unfounded, And at that time, I thought that there might be a reason for the healing in her. The next day, the girl thought that she was so worried about Ains, but she understands that today everything is fine because he really felt better, and so she can return to trading. When she entered the cafe, she doesn't understand where everyone went. Suddenly, she saw a note that Ains had written, and he indicated that he had gone to Boyard Street and would return soon. At this time, the main character thought that he had gone to look for a pharmacist, and Melly is apparently already preparing the drinks. And she understands that in this case, it's time for her to deal with desserts. Erin thought that she would probably start with scones and strawberry cream cake. And then she remembered that she had chestnut paste left over from last time, and she decided to make Mont Blanc out of it. And while the almond pastry base was baking in the oven, she mixed the whipped cream with the chestnut paste and made the filling. The girl understands that it is much easier to work with ready-made ingredients, and she would spend a long time making the pasta herself. She filled the finished molds with cream, and Mont Blanc was red.